You know, it doesn't let me pause. It just says stop.
Yeah, you may not be able to pause the stream. Maybe it's just an on-off
No, it
thing.
doesn't let me pause. It just
Oops.
says stop.
Let me check that. Okay. We'll just keep, I guess we'll keep it up because people know we're live then.
You want to mute it though right now.
Okay.
Hey, Mary. I think you're muted, Mary.
Okay, did I unmute?
You did. How are you? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mary, come a long way from the fashion show for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
I know, I wish I could do it again.
That was great.
Marty, you look so handsome.
Hey, you know, I looked at this list, and more than half of the people on this list I worked with at Eastridge.
I know.
And then you all left me like
Jill.
Mary.
Hi, Jill.
Hi, Nancy.
Kathy Bakil is here.
Whoop.
Martin, how are you?
Timothy, doing fine, thank you.
Hey, Valerie.
Ah, hi, Susan. I didn't know my sound was on. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Mary.
I'm Marty.
Val, I was in school today and walked down the hall and you weren't there. I missed you.
Oh,
Were a lot of people there today or?
No, me and Marie.
No more Carolyn?
She's moving on to Scotts Ridge, and so she'll be splitting her time for the next few days.
Oh, boy, that's crazy.
Great for her, great for Tim.
Yeah, oh, definitely. We appreciate it.
I did tell Tim that the principal always buys her lunch every day.
A new bar. Marty always sets them high.
Hi, good evening. This is Charlie Sullivan just joined. If we're early, we can drop off.
hey, Charlie.
Hi.
Hi, Charlie.
We're early too.
Okay, sorry.
There's Susie.
Fine. Hi. I think you're all fine. You're welcome to stay. We're starting in just 2 minutes. By the time you hop off and hop back on, it'll.
Okay. Didn't mean to interrupt any meetings, right?
No, not at all.
See, that's what just what his face looks like, right?
Look, here's my smile.
Yeah.
You couldn't see me smile beyond that mask, could you?
No.
Hi there. Nice to see you.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah. Good, how are you?
Very well. Thank you.
Good.
Mary D. Hi, Mary.
We've got about 1 more minute before we start the meeting.
Okay.
Hi,
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Lucia Signota. I'm a retiring teacher.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's
Hi,
nice-
Lucy. Congratulations.
Thank you. Hi, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
We love you.
Yes, you do.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock and we will get started. It's good to see so many faces. I'm going to call to order the Board of Education meeting of June 8th at 7 o'clock p.m. To start with, I'd just like to do a roll call of our Board of Education members. Please unmute yourself to acknowledge that you are on. Karina Drake.
Here.
Liz Vogel, I think she's joining us later. Nora Gatos.
Here.
Kathleen Holes. You logging on? Rachel.
Here.
Sean McAvoy.
Good evening.
Ken Schoberg.
Hello, hello.
Hello. And Jonathan Steckler. Jonathan?
Hello.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on our website. Members of the public have the ability to watch this meeting through a live stream on our Board of Education website. Regarding public comment, we'll do as we have for the past few meetings that have been remote. It will be submitted in writing through a link which is open and available on our Board of Education website as a pop-up. That link will be open from now until the point in our meeting where we get to section 6 of the agenda, which is correspondence to the board. Written comments will be read aloud by Vice Chair Jonathan Steckler. Okay, so on to the fun part of the meeting. We have a lot of great faces with us here today on this Zoom meeting. This is one of my favorite meetings of the year when we're able to recognize some of our students for their incredible contributions to their school community and their leadership skills. We're so fortunate in Ridgefield to have amazing students, each with their own strengths and their own light. Tonight, we're able to honor a few of them. First, we will be honoring the CABE Student Award recipients. The CABE Awards are designed to recognize student achievement and potential. Building principals will introduce the middle school and high school student awardees. So Dr. De Silva, I don't know if we had a specific order for that.
No, we can start with, first of all, I just like to take a moment to say hello to everybody. It's truly a pleasure. I can't stop smiling because you couldn't see my smile or Ms. DeMattis' smile or Ms. Ranieri or Mr. Salem's smile when we visited last week, but you can see it now and it's ear to ear. We're so proud of all of you and what a great pleasure it is to have you. So good for you. Big round of applause, even for those that are muted. Congratulations, congratulations. So maybe we can start off with the high school. Dr. Gross, do you want to start off?
Okay, that's a change.
That is change.
How would I know?
Okay, so I think we're starting with the CABE Award, which is the Connecticut Association of Board of Educations. It's a great honor. And tonight I have two wonderful students to talk about. So I'm going to start by talking about Ella Lou. I flashed through and saw her there with her family. Hi, Ella. Ella brings so much energy and positivity to the high school. She's incredible. She is incredibly organized and brings so many of our activities to life. Her curiosity and passion has her have so many interests. She sings with the Nightingales. She learned how to play the ukulele. She is the secretary for the government, student government, and is in charge of many of the activities. And she has played such an active role in bringing so much of the spirit activities and yearly activities to life at the high school. We'd really be lost without her. She also volunteers in the committee. She brings a lot of volunteerism to the Boys and Girls Club, and this year was a candidate for the Youth of the Year. We're so proud of her for that. Her enthusiasm has benefited the high school in countless ways. I could never list them all. And I know, Ella, that I personally will truly miss your emails convincing me to do crazy things for Spirit Week and the rest of the school year to get everybody revved up. She's the troublemaker behind the scenes that gets me to do that.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ella. You've been amazing, and it's been great working with you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ella.
Our second CABE
Let's go,
recipient
Ella.
is Keenan Briggs. And Keenan is just the kindest, most wonderful young man. I've gotten to know him very well the past 2 years, and it has been a total pleasure for me. He goes out of his way to make sure that people feel welcomed and heard and appreciated. And honestly, he does that for me every day. One of the high points of my day is passing Keenan in the hallway and getting a smile from him and a hello from him. He's very special in that way. He brings his volunteerism to the high school as a senator, but also he's very passionate about helping youth. He's done that by coaching youth sports. His passion for sports he's been able to extend with his volunteerism. He also does a ton of volunteerism for wildlife and young life. He's recently started being the voice of field hockey and basketball games at the high school. So it's been exciting to see him grow in that way. He makes a clear impact on the peers in his class. He works to do that, and it shows in everything he does. He's also a co-captain of Safe Rides in Ridgefield. He is truly an inspiration to all, and I will personally really miss seeing his smiling face every day. Congratulations, Keenan, and thanks for all you've done for the high school. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gross.
Way to go, Keenan.
Do you want everybody to do CABE, or do you want me to continue on with CAPS?
Oh, why don't we move on, perhaps give you a little bit of a break there, and we can move on to Scotts Ridge with CABE.
Great.
All right.
So my first recipient is Miss Casey O'Brien. I haven't had a chance to scroll to see if she's in this call.
Casey, there she is. Casey, can you unmute yourself and say hello so everyone can see you?
Hi.
Casey's so amazing. I think she's down in Washington, D.C. But Casey, I'm going to, just so that I don't miss anything, I'm going to read part of this bio because it's so incredible. Casey has certainly distinguished herself as a dedicated student in the classroom and a caring leader in the community. She is the Torch Club president at the local Boys and Girls Club, which is a leadership and community service program, participating in initiatives such as sandwich making for the homeless, programs for the senior center, and help organizing road races. She also volunteers at the Brewster Library, teaching young children how to read. She raises money for the needy regions in Africa and collects Christmas gifts for children in impoverished areas. In addition to her academic and volunteer commitments, Casey also plays premier soccer and basketball. And I have to say, she is one of the kindest, most generous human beings that I've met. Just an outstanding kid through and through. So Casey, I'm so proud. And you should know that this was a selection by your team teachers and your counselor and the administration. Congratulations, so well deserved.
Thank you. Thank you.
And next, our next recipient is Miss Ava Magalisi. Is she here?
She is. Say hi.
All
Ava.
right. Another outstanding Scotts Ridge student. Ava is a phenomenal student in the classroom, achieving excellence in all of her curricular areas. However, beyond the classroom, she's an active young lady, contributing to her community and developing her own personal goals. She is the Inspiration Chair for the National Charity League, participating in initiatives such as necessities bags for women battling breast cancer. She's volunteered for the local food bank and the animal shelter Roar. She volunteers at the Brewster Library, reading books in Spanish to young children. Soccer is also a passion of Ava's, and she's been selected for the Olympic Development Program and participates on several teams, including travel and premier teams. And I have to say, just another, I don't know that I've ever not seen Ava without a bright smile on her face coming into school. So Ava, congratulations, extremely well deserved.
Congratulations, Ava. Ava, can you say thank you so we know where you are? Just, we can hear you. There you are. Unmute, you got it? There you go. Say hello, Ava.
Ava.
There she is. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Ava.
All right, Miss Ranieri.
Oh, this is my favorite meeting of the year, Dr. De Silva. It really is. Board members, we are so excited to be able to share our kids with you. My first young man that I'll be talking about tonight for the CABE Award is Charlie Sullivan. Charlie Sullivan, I know you're out there. Would you give a big wave and say hello so everybody knows who you are?
Hi.
There you are. Awesome. So I have to tell you, Charlie is one of our students who always gives 110%. He brings that to everything he does, whether it's for fun, whether it's for schoolwork, and he works tirelessly really to make sure that he does the best that he can. Even more inspiring to us is that Charlie is truly a friend to everyone. He participates in all school activities. He's an active member of our East Ridge Friends Club. He performs in band and chorus. He's a swimmer. He's an assistant manager for the RBA girls basketball team, and he's an active participant at St. Mary's in their religious ed program. So Charlie, congratulations. We are so proud of you, and we're really going to miss you.
Thank you.
Our second awardee for CABE is Allison Olson. Allie, where are you? Let me find you. Let me scroll through. Say hello, Allie. Oh, there you are. I see you. Okay, I'm waving now. I see you there. Awesome. So I am very pleased to introduce Allie to you. She is a wonderful student who is both conscientious and kind. She has a true passion for learning and is always taking risks and challenging herself. And that results in her consistently exceeding expectations. And I think not only expectations of herself, but her teachers as well. Allie is so mindful when she does her work. She really pays attention to both the presentation as well as the academic standards. And further, she's always willing to help others, even when it requires her to take time away from doing her own work. And that was really noted by her teachers. And last but not least, she works as a camp counselor during the summer. So again, a very well-rounded student. Congratulations, Allie. This honor is very well deserved.
Congratulations, Allie.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ranieri. So similarly, we have the Connecticut Association of School Superintendents Awards. We have 2 students from each of our sites, Scotts Ridge, East Ridge, and our high school. Like the CABE Award, we're looking at community service, academics, and leadership service to the school community. So Dr. Gross, if you're okay, we'll start off with you.
Okay. So our first awardee tonight, my pleasure. Hi, Clodagh. Is the
Hi.
Clodagh.
Clodagh Ryan.
Clodagh is the embodiment of Tiger Pride. She is who the term has been invented for. I see Miss Deming smiling and laughing over there because we all know about it. She has unwavering school spirit, and it's really been her hallmark for the past 4 years at the high school. She's been the vice president of her freshman, sophomore, and junior class, and she is currently the president of the senior class. She has spent 2 years as my student representative with me on the monthly What's Up Doc meetings with all of our high school students. She's also a 3-season track athlete throughout high school career every year. She's very compassionate and brings that to all she does. Somehow she finds time outside of school to volunteer in both the National Charity League and the Appalachian Cervix Project. She has been an incredible member of the RHS graduation committee that has certainly been on its toes the past month. She is truly my partner in communicating to students. I couldn't do it without her. She radiates positivity all the time and is always into finding solutions and making things work. It has been a pleasure to work with you for the past 4 years, Clodagh. Thank you for everything. I am so proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gross.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I know Matt is here. I saw him on another sheet. And Matt is our second CAPS awardee tonight. And many of you know Matt Sorgi. He's been our student representative speaking at Board of Education meetings this year. Matt is a really special person. We've watched him since his freshman year and kind of had our sights on great things for him. And he's lived up to that every minute of the way. He's a consummate leader who's able to motivate people and get things done, but always intertwine things with empathy and compassion. He's really a unique individual. He's currently the president of the student body. He was class president freshman, sophomore, and junior years, and he really inspires others to take action. He inspires people to be involved support-wise, but also so many of our social causes and charity things that we've done have been under Matt's leadership. Many people don't know that Matt has a great passion and talent for art. And he expresses both his altruism with pieces supporting awareness of human rights violations and his intelligence. He has an art portfolio focusing on hope I get it right. I know you've explained it to me a million times, Matt. Epigenetic science and its potential for medical achievement. He is really talented. His volunteerism also encompasses his love of art. He's an assistant art teacher at the Ridgefield Guild of Artists, in case any of you want to take classes with him. And he has also been just an incredibly valuable member of our RHS graduation committee. Flexible is really Matt's middle name. He understands the big picture and really helps us as the administrators and teachers get the kids to where we need them to be, and he represents them wonderfully all the time. He has had a profound influence at Ridgefield High School, and he will always be remembered for that. It's been an honor to work with you, Matt. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Salem.
Yes, I just want to say all 4 of those students also had a big impact on Scotts Ridge Middle School. Congratulations to all of them. So my first recipient for this award, or I should say our first, is Maddie Brooker. Is Maddie here? I hope. I thought I saw Maddie.
I thought you too.
All right, Maddie. Maddie impresses our school community with her academic achievements, as well as her friendly and outgoing demeanor and commitment to others. She's an active member of the National Charity League, participating in numerous initiatives through that organization, including working at the thrift store, New Pond Farm, and supporting individuals with disabilities at Sphere. Maddie also manages to juggle her academic commitments, community service projects, and also holds a part-time job at the rec center teaching tumbling to young children. In addition, Maddie is a fantastic athlete, participating in both lacrosse and volleyball. And for anybody who's ever been to Scotts Ridge in the morning, you know that we greet our students right off the bus. And I don't know that I've ever in the 3 years saw Maddie come in and not say hello to every single person that was standing at greeting her at the door. Just an outstanding kid through and through, and well-deserved. Congratulations, Maddie.
Thank you.
Oh, there they are. I see them. And there's David Brooker. Hello, David. All right, and our next recipient for this award is Alexa Kemmer.
Hi.
Is Alexa, there she is. Hi, Lex.
Hi.
Alexa has impressed our community not only with her stellar academic achievements by earning recognition in the Patriots Pen contest, but beyond the classroom is her commitment to helping others. She is an active member of the National Charity League, recognized with the Gold Award for over 100 hours of philanthropic work. Her charitable work includes assisting organizations such as Meals on Wheels, the Special Olympics, and the Senior Center in Ridgefield. Additionally, Alexa was awarded the Silver Award in her Girl Scout troop for her volunteer work for the American Red Cross. She is an avid basketball player, competing on various teams since elementary school, and she's just been an outstanding student all the way around in her 3 years at Scotts Ridge, and we're going to really miss her. But we know we have her sister coming in, so that's good news. But congratulations, Alexa, well deserved.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, Ms. Ranieri, you're up.
All righty, so our first contestant, our first awardee tonight, I'm very proud to introduce Marco Catra. Marco, will you please give a wave? I see you out there with your family. Awesome, good to see you all. So I have to say that seeing everybody in person and then having this ceremony acknowledgement is really cool, because I got to meet all the Scotts Ridge kids and the high school students as well. So just need to say how neat that was. So Marco, I just need to tell everyone about you because you are a true delight. You bring so much enthusiasm and excitement for life and learning to our school that it really is contagious. Marco just is so inclusive, friendly to all, and students hold him in well regard too. And he just has such a wonderful sense of humor that's just very warm and genuine. He performed very admirably as Shrek in our East Ridge musical that we got to get in right before the closure. And outside of school, Marco is very active in community service, as well as being a member of the Ridgefield Aquatic Club swimming team, as well as attending the Connecticut Suzuki Guitar Academy. And of course, he loves to ski. That's how I first met Marco, on the slopes up at Butternut Mountain when he was just a little wee 6th grader. So Marco, congratulations. We really appreciate all you've done for our community. Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you.
And our second awardee winner, let's see where she is, Miss Millie Altop. Where are you? I know I saw you. There you are. Hello. Oh, so excited to have you here. So Millie is a student who has consistently demonstrated high academic success, really strong interpersonal skills. She is so engaging and so easy to talk to. She just serves as a leader in the classroom. And she's an excellent role model because she really knows how to get along with everyone and also help people when it's needed. She does a lot of activities at our school. She has been an active participant in all of our musicals, all 3 years. And she does a lot of volunteer work outside of the school through St. Stephen's Church. And she's also a member of the Platinum Gymnastics team at Gymnastics Revolution. And she sings in the St. Stephen Choristers. So a really well-rounded young lady who has a tremendous future ahead of her. So congratulations, Millie. You will be missed. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Go to the Altops.
Okay, I think that winds up our student awards. How about one big clap for everybody? Because that's just amazing. It was so inspiring to hear all the good works that you all do. And thank you so much for what you contribute to your school communities. And thank you for being on tonight. Students, please feel free. I know you probably have a lot of homework that you have to get to. So please feel free, except for Matthew Sorgi, please feel free to log off now if you'd like to, or you can stay on.
Congratulations.
Bye, everybody. Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item that we have. So in addition to our amazing students, we've got an amazing staff. And it's with such gratitude that we thank our retirees for all of your contributions to the Ridgefield Public Schools and your connections with our students. What's amazing to me is when you look at the years of service of the retirees, you'll notice that none have been with us for less than 7 years and many over 20 years, including Patricia Flynn, who gets a shout out with 42 years, I think, although I'm not sure she's on today, right? Wow. It's hard for me to say thank you over Zoom. It doesn't feel like an adequate expression of our gratitude. I wish we could give you a hug or a handshake in person, so we'll have to take a rain check on that. But thank you to all of you as you enjoy this next part of your journey, and good luck to you. I think we've got some words that will be spoken. Go ahead, Dr. De Silva.
So why don't we start off? We'll go in order this time so I don't throw anyone off. Why don't we start off with Barlow Mountain and Valerie Comas? Are you ready there, Mr. Fiedler?
I am very ready. I was told to keep it down to a half hour, which I will try to do. I wanted to, I don't know how I lost you. Wait a second.
You're back. You're there.
You're there, Marty.
Okay. I wanted to congratulate all the retirees, half of whom I've worked with at Eastridge before they went on to other positions. But it's my pleasure to talk to you about Val Comas. And I'm going to ask Val to say hello so you could all see who she is. Because Val, when you speak, you'll get on the screen.
I'm on the screen.
There. Yes.
Hi.
Okay. Val has been teaching for 31 years, the first 14 in New York, the last 17 in Richfield. Val started at Barlow Mountain as a literacy teacher, then moved to 2nd grade, then to 1st. She was a longtime volunteer in the social committee. She attended all PTA functions, and she's a true team player who meets every morning by 7:15 with the other members of her grade to plan. And that's almost 2 hours before she needs to be there because we are a late school. She loves what she does. Also, she's a very talented flute player who was coming out of her musical retirement to perform our staff band, which was stopped by COVID-19. And the book that you are getting, Don't Worry, Little Crab, is a perfect story because it's about someone who's embarking on an adventure. Congratulations, Val. You are just one of a kind and will certainly be missed.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Valerie. Congratulations. Dawn, I think you're speaking on behalf of Patricia Flynn.
Yes, I am. I am honored to and delighted to speak on behalf of a very special retiree tonight, Pat Flynn. Pat was hired by the district on October 15th, 1984. For those of you who are doing the quick math, that's about 36 years. God bless her. On top of the other years she put in to make her 42. She was hired at that time to perform secretarial bookkeeper duties for the school lunch program. Between September and October of 1985, Pat transitioned into the role as a school aide assigned to evening attendance at Ridgefield High School. From there, she moved into the position as secretary in charge of the school lunch program, where she was able to bring her talents in dealing with that particular federal program. On July 1st, 1988, until now, June 2020, Pat held the position of secretary bookkeeper for the business department. I've only had the pleasure of knowing Pat for a short time compared to her years of service at the Ridgefield Public Schools. In that short time, I've come to know Pat as a dedicated, thoughtful, respectful person who takes a great deal of pride in her work. She has an immense attention to detail and has always been incredibly organized. Personally, I am grateful to have known Pat and especially appreciate all her support and skills in dealing with the school lunch program. Her ability to keep that program on track is impeccable. Pat has kept us in great standings for the state of Connecticut every year that they have audited our accounts. I will miss her tenacious strength in pulling the necessary details together as she stood strong time and time again to represent the business office. For anyone who has dealt with the state and done an audit with them, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. So thank you, Pat. You'll be missed by all of us. Pat, for your role and service to Ridgefield Public Schools, a book will be donated to the Farmingville Elementary School Library in your name. Due to your love of reading mysteries, the book being donated on behalf of you is called Case Closed, Stolen from the Studio by Laura and Magaziner.
Congratulations, Pat. Okay, we are moving on to East Ridge Middle School. We have Nancy Hansen, a teacher of 20 years. Ms. Ranieri?
All right, it is truly my pleasure. Hi, Nancy. It is truly my my honor and pleasure to recognize Nancy. She has taught French at East Ridge for the past 20 years, and she's done it with just an equal love of adolescence, of the French language, the French culture. Her pure joy for the language is contagious, and her students spoke, sang, ate, and have lived the culture from her classroom. One of my favorite memories of Nancy is when she dresses up as Marie Antoinette each Halloween, and she would say to the students and teachers, "Qui mange du gâteau?" Did I say that right, Nancy? Was I close?
Excellent.
Okay, très bien, très bien. Her genuine warmth and zest for life will truly be missed from our school community. Nancy, thank you for everything. The book, Monet's Garden Through the Seasons at Giverny, will be donated to our library in your name. Congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Nancy.
Thank you, Marty. I just would like to thank Ridgefield Board of Ed for giving me the opportunity. I almost feel like I'm going to cry because I love what I did, and the students they meant so much to me. So I love French, as you can tell, and the culture, and it really was a lot of work. I work with a very dedicated staff, and we all seem to rise to the occasion because we wanted to do our best. But I appreciate really the chance. I remember when I saw the ad way back 20 years ago in the newspaper that said French teacher in Ridgefield, and I just said, that's my job. So I went for the interview, and the rest is history. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Congrats, Nancy.
Okay, we have Wilson Hiller, custodian for over 11 years. Is that Joe or Ms. Ranieri? Ms. Ranieri?
I'm prepared to speak for Bill. Bill was such a great man. Truly, I've only known him for the 4 of his 11 years, but truly someone always willing to help out, going above and beyond. One of my favorite memories of him is, I'm leaving work late one night and he's letting a student in to go to his locker because he forgot something that he needed for the next morning. And then his locker was jammed and he helped him unjam the locker. And that's the kind of pride that Bill just had in the school, and really our school was better for him being there. So we really wish him the best in his retirement.
Congratulations. So I think I'm up next. I have the great fortune and feel very honored to speak on behalf of Mrs. Susan Gately, who has been a part of the Ridgefield Public Schools since 1996. So for those of you that didn't know, Ms. Gately began her work as a middle school social studies teacher. And I would have never guessed that, just being a part of her work as an elementary school principal. She began at Farmingville as an elementary school principal in 2007. Besides her degrees in education and leadership, a little surprise there too is that Ms. Gately has an MBA from Yale University, which I didn't know either. So that's a little fast fact. Well, I'm thrilled, obviously, that Susan will be able to join her family in her retirement. It's also clear that she's a valued elementary school principal. I can see that each day with her colleagues and the work that she does with her colleagues. Her voice is important, valued, and a contributing strength. That said, I had focus groups today actually with her parents and her teachers. And what I would say, Susan, to you is that your heart would have melted to hear what your families and your teachers said about you. And it is certain that it will be difficult to fill your shoes. So I'd like to thank you for the partnership over the past 8 weeks, because I do believe that it was a partnership right from that very first day or two when you gave me some advice by text message. That's what a true partner is and a true colleague. May health, family, and friends be with you in your retirement. And on your behalf, you will be honored with the book called My Magical Words by Becky Cummings. Thank you for all the hard work that you've done for the Ridgefield Public Schools. You'll be missed.
Oh, Susie, thank you so much for those kind comments. I can't think of a job any better than getting to work with students, with children every single day. The entire community at Farmingville is amazing. My colleagues are incredible. And it's truly been a privilege. It's a lot of hard work and there's nothing like it. It was easy to leave an MBA behind and join education, because that's where the fulfillment truly is. So I'm just so privileged and blessed to have been part of this community. So thank you for the adventure. I'm looking forward to my next one.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Susan.
Congratulations, Susan.
Okay, and here I go again. I have another great privilege to honor another retiring principal. Besides you both keeping me very busy this spring, it truly has been an honor. So Dr. Gross, who has been with the Ridgefield community since January 1st, 2012. And so what I think truly is a testament about Dr. Gross is the fact that she left the role of an assistant superintendent to be back with children. And the moment that you meet Stacy, or at least the moment that I met Stacy, I knew that that's where she belonged. And Ridgefield has been very lucky to have you, Dr. Gross, since that time. Besides a wonderful pedigree, Dr. Gross also earned Outstanding High School Principal back in 2018. From my perspective, I'd like to thank Dr. Gross for truly being a partner and a collaborator. I've appreciated the very early messages, very, very early messages from Dr. Gross, making sure that we were all on the same page and doing the right thing for children. And it's clear that in this virtual world, over the past 3 months, it's not exactly what Stacy had planned for her students, her seniors, and certainly for herself. And all the while, I can tell you that since I've come on board in 8 weeks, her students have been #1. So of all the impressive qualities, Stacy, the fact that your devotion has been to children from the moment you get up in the morning is the one that's most impressive. So again, like with Principal Gately, I'd like to thank you for the partnership, the collaboration, but most importantly, to your commitment to the families and children of Ridgefield since 2012. And we're glad you came back from that assistant superintendent role to be where your calling is. And on behalf of the Ridgefield Public Schools, we will be dedicating the book Alaska, a photographic excursion by Mark Kelly to the RHS Library. May health, family, and friends be with you in your retirement.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you for your kind words. Thanks,
Thank-
everybody. It's been a great ride, and I always say it and will continue to say it. It was the best decision I ever made to come to Richfield High School. And I'm so happy that I'm feeling that way through the very last day that I'll be here. And I can't thank the other administrators, the parents, the teachers, and the students for their partnership and collaboration through it all. I've been so blessed to have such a great team. And it's all wonderful memories, all of it. So thank you so much, Susie, and thank you to Richfield.
Congratulations, Stacy.
Congratulations, Stacy.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Stacy.
Thank you.
Okay, we have someone who snuck in terms of a retirement. We have Diana Friedlander, who's both a teacher at SES and BES, special education teacher. Diana, just wave so we can see you there. And Ms. Katosin will be speaking on her behalf.
Thank you. So I just want to start by congratulating all of the retirees. Congratulations and best of luck as you move on to the next phase. On behalf of both Branchville and Scotland, it's my honor to recognize the retirement of Dr. Diana Friedlander. Diana is a special education educator of 41 years, who has also spent significant time at Barlow Mountain and Veterans Park Elementary during her 27-year career in Ridgefield. During her tenure here, Diana has demonstrated a deep commitment to teaching and learning of students and families with whom she works. She has been a vital member of the school communities of which she was a part and is always willing to problem solve no matter what the challenge. So Diana, the book, My Mixed Emotions, Help Your Kids Handle Their Feelings will be donated in your honor. You will be greatly missed, and we wish you all the best with your family and your grandchildren in retirement.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Diana.
Many of you also. Great to see everybody, and thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. We have Janice Rocha from RHS.
So it's my pleasure to speak about Janice Rocha. I saw her. So hi, Janice, missing you. So Janice's educational story, I think, is really great. She was a student teacher at Ridgefield High School and was so amazing that she was snapped up as a world language teacher immediately. She has dedicated more than 3 decades of her life to foreign language instruction. Her presence and contributions to our school district have been essential, and she will be greatly missed. I personally have a great memory of her dancing near me in the student center. I don't think she knew I was going to bring that up today. In our Can't Stop the Feeling lip sync, school lip sync video. It was so much fun to be with her that way. And I know that students are so connected to her. She has done so much for the World Language Department. We're so grateful to her at Ridgefield High School, and she will be greatly missed. The book Iberia by James Michener is being donated to the Ridgefield High School Library in your name, Janice. Thank you for everything. I wish you lots of happiness and joy, and congratulations.
Thank you, Stacy, and everyone. I'm so glad that I had the vision to choose Ridgefield High School, where I did my student teaching, because I loved it so much I never wanted to leave. And it's a little hard to leave, but there are other things that I need and want to do. But by far the best years I've been with Ridgefield. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Janice.
Thank you.
Patrick Wild, who's been a teacher for 20+ years.
So Patrick retired, I think, in December. I didn't see him here tonight. I don't think he's here tonight. But Patrick has been such a valued teacher at the high school. Staff and students have totally benefited from his love and his passion of U.S. history and government. He has been a tremendous resource to everybody. His passion for history spills out into many aspects of his life. In addition to being a social studies teacher, he is the official town historian for Bethel, Connecticut. He's a published author and a historical resource for the P.T. Barnum documentaries and more. We thank him for being a passionate teacher, supportive colleague, and inspirational historian. We miss him. In his honor, the book Hidden History of Connecticut by Wilson Ford will be given to the RHS Library. And congratulations, Pat.
Congratulations. Okay, we have Lucilla Zulo Signore. Did I get that right?
Yes, thank you.
7 years.
I'm going to go with the more common Lucy because she's used to me calling her that.
That's fine.
Thank you, Lucy. So Lucy is so interesting because I think you joined Ridgefield High School a couple of years ago following a full career in teaching in other schools. And she so quickly put so much energy into becoming an important member of the culture and climate at the high school. And we are so grateful to her for that. Lucy teaches both Spanish and Italian, and every year we annoy her by switching and blending what she's going to be teaching, and she graciously does that every year and gives wonderful experiences to all of our students. I also know that for Lucy, kind of really stepping into the world of technology was a change from her previous school. And she embraced that new learning, took it on, and has actually stepped up to now teaching other teachers in the department how to use technology. So she's really the epitome of a lifelong learner, and I'm so proud of her for that and have enjoyed getting to know her and working with her. So in your name, Lucy, the book Dante's Lyric Poems, Italian Poetry in Translation. Going to try to do this by Dante Alighieri.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, thank you. My husband will be proud too. Lucy and my husband in one shot. So thank you for all you've done to the high school. I'm so glad I got to know you and work with you. And congratulations on this next phase in your life. Wish you all the best.
Oh, thank you so much, Stacy. And it's been wonderful working with you and concluding my career in this great school system. I never thought that I would be teaching in a public school. But I ended my career there, and in a very happy note, I have to say. I'm just sorry that I couldn't be with my students for the last 3 months, but I think we're all set about that. But anyway, thank you so much for your graciousness.
Congratulations, Lucy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, we have from Scotland, Kathy Pakela.
Thank you. Hi, Kathy.
Where's Kathy? Here she is.
So Kathy has been an integral part of the lives of students and staff during her time as an instructional para at Scotland Elementary, as well as her time at Scotts Ridge and Ridgebury schools. She has touched the lives of many with her positive attitude, boundless energy, and compassion, and she will be missed tremendously. Kathy, on behalf of the Scotland staff, we wish you all of the happiness as you retire and are able to spend more time with family and friends in the outdoors, which we know you love. The text, the illustrated version of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling, will be donated to the SES Library in your honor. Congratulations.
Okay, we have Mary Judge Devine, teacher with us for 22 years from Scotts Ridge Middle School.
Yes, where is she? There she is. There's my friend Mary Devine. So it's interesting because Mary and I are both very early to school in the morning and typically park right next to each other, smiling and waving almost every day as we pull in. But Mary, you are the consummate professional. You're diligent, you're conscientious, you're compassionate, you care deeply about students, you care about your fellow staff members. You've been an incredible team member to the teams that you've served on in all of your 22 years. You're going to be missed by everybody in our building. I'll especially miss your little stop-in visits into the office with either the wit and wisdom of someone who has been in the system for as long as you were, and really appreciate everything that you've contributed to the culture and climate of Scotts Ridge, and want to wish you all the very best in your retirement. Enjoy your grandkids, and I know you'll do that. The book is so appropriate because for those of you who know Mary, you may know that Mary ran our mock trials for many years at Scotts Ridge, which were highly, highly successful. The kids love them. And so the book is The Notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which I think that is a perfectly appropriate book for you, Mary. So again, congratulations and thank you for all of your outstanding contributions.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I could not have had more fun.
with the people I've worked with, and I just love the kids. So thank you for everything.
Congratulations, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Colleen Murphy. Congratulations, Mary.
Colleen, you sure you're still going to retire?
Sure.
When Colleen Murphy first told me that she was going to retire, I thought, oh, we are sunk. Colleen knows every facet of the operational aspects of our building. She is our historical data chieftain with over 26 years of vital experience. She does everything with grace and humility. And even sometimes when I ask her things 13 times, she refuses to get frustrated with me and just smiles and delivers the information. But seriously, Colleen is just incredible. She does a boatload of work and never complains one bit about anything that's ever asked of her. More than anything, she's just integral to the culture of our office staff. And we're going to really miss her and all of her outstanding contributions. So Colleen, we hope that you'll visit frequently and say hello to us. And we're going to miss you. And I want to thank her. She's spending the last week of her working with us, helping us organize locker bags and to distribute. And she was right there today with her mask on. So thank you, Colleen. The book that we're going to put in your honor, Colleen, is called Bee's Adventures in Cake Decorating by B. Berry.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. I'm so thankful that I've had the privilege to work for the Ridgefield Schools for all these years. And the wonderful people that I've worked with, really like my second family. And I'm going to miss everybody. And thank you.
Congratulations, Colleen.
Thank you, Marty.
Congratulations, Colleen.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Pamela Petty, instructional paraprofessional at Scotts Ridge.
Yeah, Pam, I didn't see Pam. Is she here? Does anybody know? I don't know if she's here, but so Pam Petty has worked in a variety of schools over her 15 years in Richfield. Staunch child advocate. We so appreciate all of the work that she's done working as a paraprofessional in our building. She served as a tremendous support system to both students and families in the short time that she was with us at Scotts Ridge. And we really want to thank her for her commitment to children and service, and want to wish her the best. And she retired back in November, but we do want to wish her all the very best in the future. So thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam. Congratulations. We have Mary Bonsignore from RHS. Did I get that right?
Hi, Mary. It's great to see you. Mary retired in November, so we haven't seen her for a while, so it's so nice to see you. Congratulations. Mary has worked in the Ridgefield Public Schools for 18 years as an instructional special education paraeducator. One of the things I found so interesting that I learned about you, Mary, is that you have worked at the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level, which is so incredible that you've touched so many students during your career here. She has really worked with some of our very most special students. And we're very grateful to you for your caring nature and your support of these students and their families. It really made a difference in their lives and in our lives. So we're very proud of you. And the book that is being donated to the Ridgefield High School in your name is 1,000 Books to Read Before You Die by James Mustick, which is a great book. It opens up a whole new world of things for lots of people. Some of us will have time on our hands to do more reading, so we can take advantage of that. But Mary has been a great support system. So congratulations and thank you for all you've done, Mary.
Congratulations, Mary.
Mary.
Congratulations, Mary.
Congratulations, Mary.
Hey, you know, I was very blessed to be in the school systems and work with the special ed children. And I have to tell you, going to 7 different schools, I thought they're trying to get rid of me, right? But it was a wonderful experience. And my highlight was doing fashion shows with Marty and Tim. They were phenomenal. I did the fashion show 2 years with, I believe, Mr. Fiedler. He was such a good sport because we did have the band. And Tim did a great job when we had It was for the new town that we raised money. So I feel very blessed to be able to do that. And that was my highlight of my career. But I'm not retired. I'm not retired. I'm working full-time at the nursing homes, which has been pretty stressful.
Terrific.
Congratulations, Mary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kathy Picala, I think you may have been trying to get off mute before and I ran through it pretty quickly. Did you want to say anything? I think you're still on mute, Kathy.
Bottom left.
I just unmuted you, Kathy.
There you go.
Everybody. So I said, Tim, thank you for hiring me years ago. And I worked with Susan and she taught my kids, and then I got to work at Farmingville for a while. I worked at a lot of the schools and I love all of you. And I'm so glad that, I mean, not glad, I guess, but that some of you are retiring. And Jean, it's so nice to see your face. Some of you I haven't seen in years and I miss you all. And I wish you all the best of luck. You know, we all love each other at school, and well, most of us do. Anyway, and for those of you retiring and have grandchildren like I do now, enjoy. Life's too short. Love you all.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Thank you. Okay, all yours.
I think we made it through our list.
Okay, just like you did with the students, just another round of applause for everybody. Thank you so much for all you've done for the Ridgefield Public Schools. Thank you. I will also allow you to drop off unless you'd like to stay on for the rest of the meeting. Bye-bye.
I'm just going to stay on for Matt.
Okay, good. Okay, moving on to our representative reports. NEA-R Representative, I think I saw Jean Deming.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can.
Hey! Okay. First off, I'd like to say congratulations to all of the retirees. I know almost all of you, either through working with you or my travels throughout the school. So I wish you all the best. Of course, many of you are at the high school where I've been for a long time, and Stacy, of course. This is also bittersweet, and I got very emotional listening to some of you, and I've known Kathy and Colleen I worked with, so I just wish you all the best, and I wish I could hug you. And congratulations to all of our students. I also know a few of those wonderful young people, and we are very, very proud of you. Thank you all for the energy and time you've devoted to the Ridgefield Public Schools board members in this especially difficult time. We trust that you and your families are well. We have listened closely to the latest discussions around school budget. We appreciate how difficult it is to decide what is removed from an extremely pared down budget. The simple answer is an awful lot. It's troubling that Ridgefield continues to be forced to provide quality education on a shoestring budget. We have heard about proposed teacher cuts. We repeat our prior pleas to keep cuts away from human capital in the classroom in all respects, including art programs at the elementary schools and FTEs at the high school. Our children need as much normalcy as we can provide in the coming months and years. The mission of Ridgefield Public Schools is to provide highly engaging, relevant, and personalized learning for all members of the community. Cutting teachers and the programs that they provide violates everything that this mission stands for. Cutting art teachers and programs in half could certainly impact children and their endeavors. And in the wake of our current challenges, it doesn't seem possible that it's being considered yet again. As we look at the amazing virtual art shows on the recent RPS newsletter this past week, we're reminded of the importance of arts education. NEA Ridgefield equally supports the recent reinsertion of 0.35 to the RHS teacher force to support improved choice at the high school. Ridgefield High School is known for its innovative and and advanced programming, and any cuts hurt students. RHS also needs to maintain the addition of a social worker in the budget at a time when students' social emotional needs are at the forefront. Teachers are not a line item. We are humans whom you trust with the care and education of your own. We can continue without things, but we cannot go on without qualified professional educators. Students need teachers. They need teachers to instruct them in the skills they're lacking due to the disruptions of the past few months. They need teachers to listen to them as they express their concerns and fears about the present and the future. They need teachers to help them work to be more independent, mature young adults. Our students will return to school in the fall, whatever that return may look like, and they will look to their teachers for the support that they have missed for the past 3 months. They need a sense of certainty and continuity. They need to connect with the teachers who provide the support, be that an art or music teacher, a social worker, or a science teacher. Don't cut these teachers, the life force of our schools. Where would the school district find the funds for teachers? Let's turn over every stone to find reductions. Neighboring districts have offered teachers retirement incentives to save hundreds of thousands of dollars. Other options? We understand the need for high-performing districts like ours to provide professional development, and we know that Ridgefield continues to fall way behind in our DIRG in monies devoted to this. Teachers are lifelong learners, and certainly this district needs to do more to support that. However, and though we know this is not ideal, suspension, not cancellation, of non-mandated, non-special education professional services should be recommended for next year, given the unique set of circumstances we face. Why not shift the professional development temporarily to tap the expertise and learning that teachers have fostered on their own? Teachers have clearly demonstrated their grit, willingness, and ability to teach themselves or work together to learn new skills. Our own literacy and math coaches and all of the teachers have already been highly engaged in the construction of literacy, mathematics, global language, humanities, and STEM curriculum at all levels. Ridgefield teachers have demonstrated their selfless collaboration to devise further units of study with one another in the spring, in the wake of Corona. We have risen above and beyond to ensure that our students get all that they need to progress. The curriculum department of the Ridgefield Public Schools has surveyed teachers after every PD experience. Perhaps consulting that data set could illuminate potential fiscal priorities in PD, allowing our funds to be directed toward that which is most relevant and effective for teachers. Further, consider this. What happens should the schools be forced to close down again? In such an event, the district will have earmarked tens of thousands of dollars on PD that will not even be possible. In closing, we submit that we wish we had more to work with in this budget, but we are trying to manage a hand that we have been dealt. We need to identify priorities. We should value human capital in the classroom over teacher learning from outside agencies. We should continue to use our valuable in-house resources to grow the skills of teachers when resources are so tight. We should prioritize the continuity and security of students returning to schools and programs that they recognize in the fall and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean. Next rep report is PTA Representative. I think I saw Ann Blood.
Yeah, we would also just like to congratulate all the teachers who are retiring, and we wish them well, and congratulations to our students who won some fantastic awards tonight. The PTA has not been slowing down at all during this unprecedented time. In fact, all 9 PTAs have been working very closely with their principals to make sure that their graduations are all extra special. Scotland even enlisted 45 families to start drawing on the 5th graders' driveways today, as well as making signs for their windows. Over at RHS, the PTA, in conjunction with the post-grad committee, has moved the post-grad party online and today started their virtual raffle. Every high school senior at RHS was entered into the raffle, and between now and June 19th, they will be drawing a few names each day. And as the days go on, the prizes will be getting bigger. Branchville held their a virtual general membership meeting where everyone was able to meet Dr. DeSilva. They said it was a great turnout for the virtual meeting. In fact, the PTAs have been struggling with getting attendance at general meetings. They've tried flip-flopping day meetings to night meetings just to see what works best for parents. And it could be what works best is remote. So I'm sure in the fall we'll have to have a few more of them, and it could be something that might just stick. Scotland the other day had a virtual trivia contest, and it included multiple choice questions that everyone from kindergartens through 5th graders were able to answer, and they really had a great community event. Scotland has also teamed up with Tiger Sports, and they sold over 100 Scotty masks. So I think you'll be seeing a lot of little dog faces on Main Street in the next couple of weeks. They're very excited about that, as well as their virtual Scholastic Book Fair will be happening through the end of June. So parents get an opportunity to kind of stock up on some essential reads for their students. I would like just to thank the board for allowing the PTA Council to come to the meetings and share and brag a little bit about what our PTAs have been doing throughout the year. This is actually going to be my last meeting. I'll be rolling off and passing the baton on. Gloria Driscoll will be entering her 2nd year as co-president, and Kim Carone, who is no stranger to the PTA, will be coming on to replace me. So I would just like to thank you all and enjoy the summer.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you for all of your partnership and help this year. Thank you. RHS Student Representative, I think I saw Matt Sorgi still on.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, everyone. I really just wanted to start by saying thank you on behalf of all the students. It's really nice to be celebrated, and for all of you to take the time to recognize all of us, we really appreciate it. And I know a lot of the faculty that are retiring already left, but I wanted to congratulate all of them as well, especially you, Dr. Gross. These past 4 years with you have really been incredible. I know I've tossed some crazy ideas at you on student government, and you've always been very supportive of me and what we wanted to accomplish as a school community. And I really thank you for making my past 4 years at school really memorable. So thank you so much for that. And for the Board of Education, I really want to thank you for allowing me to come to the meetings this past year. It has really been a pleasure. And I'm really sorry that our time got cut short. I would have liked to come to a couple more meetings and see all of you. So I'm sorry that did not happen. But there is one last high school update as we are looking at graduation and all the fun things we have planned for our seniors this month. So thank you again, Dr. Gross, for having our drive-in graduation. Even though it's only going to be half the grade, I know everybody's so excited to be with their peers and be able to hear all the speeches that we have prepared and to have our names read. It's really nice to have something, and the fact that everybody's working so hard to keep the celebration so special really means a lot to us. And the PTA as well, we're really grateful for seeing the raffle winners today. Was really exciting. Everybody's been looking on Facebook and is excited for all the raffles that will be happening later in the next 2 weeks. So of course, this is not the year we imagined having, but there is still lots to look forward to, and we're really grateful for everything that has been done for us as we're moving on to the next steps. We're really grateful for everything that we've had here as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for everything you've done, and good luck on this next chapter of your life.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Okay, moving on to our next agenda item 4, which is approval of meeting minutes. Do I have a motion regarding the meeting minutes from April 13th, 2020?
I move that the Board of Ed approve the meeting minutes from April 4th, is it 13th, 2020?
Yep.
Sorry.
Do I have a second? Anyone? Oh, Sean? Okay. Any discussion, comments? Anyone? No? All right. We can move on to a vote. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from April 13th, 2020, please raise your hand. I think I can see everyone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. 8 and 8-0. Liz is not on with us right now, so that's unanimous. So those meeting minutes are approved. Do I have a motion regarding the meeting minutes from April 27th, 2020?
I move that the Board of Ed accept the meeting minutes from April 27th, 2020.
Do I have a second? Okay, Jonathan? Any comments or changes?
I had a couple
Okay.
of little typos that I found. Would this be the time to share those?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just a couple of minor things, like in section B, the second paragraph, it begins to comply with these standard. I think it means standards.
Yeah.
And then in section D,
yeah,
the very first line, Mr. Moritz update the board. So I think it's updated.
Yep.
And then this one is super minor, but in section E, in the last sentence, rollout is actually 2 words when it's a verb. So minor detail.
Good.
And then 2 more little ones. In section G, where in the middle of the paragraph, it means to say COVID-19.
Oh, yeah.
But it says cover. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the very last sentence of section G, Dr. De Silva's name is spelled incorrectly.
Oh, yes.
And actually there's one more. In the last paragraph of section G, rather the second paragraph, sort of in the second line toward the right, it says the motion failed to passed. Yep. And it would just be pass. So the grammar police.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or changes? All right, thank you, Nora. Okay, we will vote on that. All those who approve the meeting minutes from April 27th as amended or changed with Nora's changes, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8-0. Again, the minutes passed. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, the reopening committee. And I believe that Karen Dewing and Dr. Hanaway will be taking us through this. And I think, Dr. Hanaway, are you going to be sharing your screen?
I am.
So I just want to take a moment to thank both Dr. Hanaway and Ms. Dewing. They've worked very hard. There's been a lot of information that we've been forwarding along and to try to grapple with what makes the most sense at this moment in time. And to add to that, really to be inclusive in terms of this committee and also manageable in terms of size is really a testament to the thoughtfulness of both of them. So I'm excited to hear both Dr. Hanaway and Karen speak tonight, but wanted to publicly acknowledge them for their thoughtfulness.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you,
De Silva.
Susie. Thank you, Susie. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, Margaret, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Liz Hanaway. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Special Services for the Ridgefield Public Schools, and joining me this evening is my co-chair in the reopening committee, and that's Karen Dewing, Director of Personnel. We're going to start off this evening by discussing the purpose of our committee.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Hanaway.
So as Dr. Hanaway began the work and I began the work of designing the framework for the reopening committee, we had to begin with what the committee's purpose would be. So the primary purpose of the committee is to ensure, with all stakeholders, to ensure the safe return of our students and staff to school in August. Secondarily, we know we're going to need to continue that work throughout the year. So it is very likely that as we open school in August, it will look differently during the rest of the school year. So our committee's work will work throughout the summer to open up in August, but it will continue throughout the school year as we will have to respond to any changing federal, state, or local guidelines.
The structure of our committee is as follows. Karen and I serve as co-chairs, and we have a steering committee of a very small group of administrators who will be working with us and helping us facilitate what you see here as 7 subcommittees. We landed on 7 subcommittees through research, any research we could get our hands on. And Board of Ed members, we shared with you some of those in our memo. We looked to see what local districts are doing around us in the state of Connecticut. We look to see what's happening across the country in states in which reopening is happening before us. We looked even to see what's happening internationally in countries that have been farther ahead with the reopening process. And then of course we used information that was available to us for local health guidelines. So the 7 subcommittees here are community relations, health and safety, teaching and learning, facilities and transportation, social and emotional, and extracurriculars and athletics. While these are distinct subcommittees on this slide, there is going to be overlap of work. And so while our intention is to have 7 fully running individual subcommittees, there will be opportunity for collaboration among them and overlap of projects. A bit more about our membership.
Okay. So as stated earlier, Dr. Hanaway and myself are co-chairs. To create our steering committee, we felt that it was important to have administrator representation from each level. Therefore, elementary principal Jill Katkosen will be our elementary rep. Middle school assistant principal Lisa Fries will be our middle school rep. And high school assistant principal Michael Yegid will be our high school rep. Because most of our design will impact all of our facilities, we felt it was important to round out and have Joe Moritz, our facilities manager, be part of that steering committee as well.
I am not going to read this slide to everyone because we may be here till very late if I do that. However, what we're showing here is we have a vast array of stakeholders who will be part of the larger committee and make up the subcommittees. So we have central office administrators, administrators across the district, health personnel, certified staff, non-certified staff, Board of Ed representatives, elected officials, and many representatives from the town of Ridgefield across different domains. We felt it was really important to include as many minds that could look at our different projects and plans from as many perspectives as possible. As soon as Karen and I with the steering committee thought that we had membership set, somebody would think of a facet that we hadn't thought of before. And so we added that to the list. And so the committee grew by the week and it became larger than we had anticipated. But we felt that the risk of not including folks was not something we were willing to take versus having a committee larger than what we had expected. What you'll notice is not included here on committee membership right now are students. Please don't take that as a sign that we will not be including students, because we will. But in the formation of the initial subcommittees, we determined that until we have some scenarios and planning worked out in draft form, we didn't want to pull students in for much of the initial muddiness that happens when you bring different groups together and trying to work through to get to some clarity. So students will very much be included, whether it be part of the subcommittees or perhaps part of focus groups or other forum. Our first committee is health and safety.
So in designing the structure of the subcommittees, we felt that it was important to identify a focus for each subcommittee's work, possible areas for them to consider, so this list would not be exhaustive, and then potential membership for the committee. So the focus of the Health and Safety Committee is to identify necessary health and safety requirements, designing of an implementation plan, and identifying necessary resources and/or training that will be needed. Some areas that the committee work can consider is we will examine federal, state, and local guidelines. We will look at all cleaning protocols of our buildings before opening and while open. We will look at transportation safety. We will monitor student and staff symptoms. We will look at personal protective equipment and how those supplies are mandated and what expectations for use will occur. And then a plan for any response to any confirmed cases in the building. For our membership, you will see, I'm not going to read all of them, that we're trying to have a broad range of educators, so special education teachers, general education teachers, custodians, employees, but also a heavy emphasis on our medical professionals. So outside MDs, our nurses. We will also try to incorporate other community resources such as resource officers and/or food service, just to name a few, in addition to our parents and Board of Ed members.
The Teaching and Learning Subcommittee will focus on the design of the structure of in-person and distance learning models, along with how we assess students in terms of where they are returning us academically and what kind of intervention models we need to design upon their return. We have a little bit of a jump start when it comes to this committee because we've been doing distance learning this whole time. However, we may be more in a situation of thinking about hybrid, or even if we're fully in person, students are not going to be where we would naturally assume them to be based on what we know if we're running the school year in the same way. So that assessment process is going to be very important. Some considerations for this committee include the structure and length of the school day and week, student to staff ratios, again, those instructional supports and reassessment cycles, and the distance learning instructional design. For this subcommittee, as with all, some of these decisions will be local, but some of the decisions may not be, and they may be made for us by the state of Connecticut. So while we're eager to make plans on our own, we're also very anxious to learn what will be knowns and what things we can plan on based on what Connecticut decides for us. As Karen mentioned in the previous slide, we have an array of membership between general and special educators, curriculum and instruction administrators, parents, technology, essential areas, and non-certified personnel. Next is facilities.
So the focus of the facilities subcommittee will be to look at cleaning protocols for our buildings, safe navigation throughout our buildings, and PPE distribution across our schools and all of our sites. Areas that the committee will consider will be deep cleaning protocols, entry and exit plans for our buildings, for our visitors, and for our buses, social distancing markers. What type of supports do we need to ensure that we have the proper distances within our buildings for our staff and our students? Proper training. So some examples would be our custodial staff and our busing for our proper cleaning protocols, and acquisition and supplies of our PPEs. Just in our previous membership, we'll have a broad range of membership. There will be an emphasis on our facilities with our facilities manager, our maintenance foreman, our custodians, but we'll also include such as our secretaries and our technology for people that have impact for how we navigate our buildings as well.
This is a perfect example of what I mentioned earlier in terms of subcommittee work overlapping. We have a transportation subcommittee which we're going to hit in a few slides, and so this would be a natural overlap between transportation and facilities. Our social and emotional subcommittee, this is probably the subcommittee that at least I've heard the most feedback about since we announced the formation of the reopening committee from staff, parents, and community members. A lot of folks are really interested into the work of this subcommittee. So the focus of this subcommittee will be to design student assessment, mental health measures and intervention, along with family supports for the reacclimation into school and the effects of social distancing. This committee is going to work hard to think through not only what makes sense for all kids, but also how could they be flexible on a case-by-case basis. I think more than ever, while we can create plans for the whole, we're going to need to have our minds towards differentiation and personalization more than we're even used to doing, which is hard because we're pretty good at it. So this subcommittee is going to focus on students who may be having school refusal issues, who may be having a regression of social emotional behavioral skills, and looking at assessing mental health status, and perhaps identifying students who weren't already identified as needing social emotional behavioral supports. Again, a broad membership of participants with an emphasis on our mental health staff, including psychologists and school counselors, a nurse, a pediatrician, parents, and the rest. Extracurriculars and athletics.
So the focus of this subcommittee will be to re-engage our student community in extracurricular and athletic activities. This is probably one of the areas that they have missed out the most. So we want to ensure that we have the most opportunities for them next year. Areas that the committee will examine will be how we work with outside organizations such as SEAC and FSEAC to ensure safe athletic programs for our students. We will work with our student life coordinator to look at what clubs can work within any safety parameters that we've established. And this is particularly an area where we will work with our student membership to engage them in participation in as much in-person and or virtual experiences as possible. Our committee membership then will have to include our athletic director with our coaches, our student life coordinator. Many of our middle school and high school teachers also serve as advisors for their clubs, so they will be important members of this, as well as our school counselors.
The Community Relations Subcommittee is one that, upon research, Karen and I didn't see consistently across other types of committees in other districts or parts of the country that were developing reopening plans, but we felt it was really important to have its own distinct Community Relations Subcommittee instead of just having parents and different community members on other subcommittees as well. And the focus of this subcommittee is to engage our community partners in the reopening of school and to consolidate efforts for services, public relations, and initiatives for the benefit of the entire town. So some considerations for this committee will be working with local organizations, for example, Boys and Girls Club, the Rec Center, to liaise with local businesses. As we know, many of our students, staff, and family have strong connections with local businesses, to collaborate with other districts where appropriate, and the same with local private schools, pre-K and K-8. The membership would include not only parents, but elected members of Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen. We have our psychologists and school counselors included, Boys and Girls Club, and Cadence Academy. Cadence Academy, for those who may not be familiar, is a daycare center which is connected to Barlow Mountain Elementary School. Excuse me. And last is transportation.
So the focus of the Transportation Subcommittee will be to identify the protocols for the safe transportation of our students to and from school, which will follow federal and health guidelines. Some of the considerations for the committee will be the number of students allowed on buses at each time. What are our cleaning procedures before, during, and after our routes? Monitoring of students prior to getting on the bus. Establishing pickup and drop-off procedures at our buildings with the buses and how they come and go from our buildings. The membership will need to include transportation coordinator, work with our first student, our bus company, as well as parents, teachers, building administrators, secretaries, nurses, all whom have impact, and paraeducators, all whom have impact for our students as they come off and on our buses.
So I think an expected question, if it doesn't get asked, might be in many people's minds is, how are you going to accomplish all of this between now and August? Karen and I have daily conversations about that reality, but what I think is important for each subcommittee and for our steering committee is to have a very clear process of what the focus of our work is. And so we've outlined what is going to be our charge to subcommittees, and there will be a subcommittee lead within each one who's going to make sure that they are first assessing needs and prioritizing. There's going to be much work to get done, but the assessment and prioritization process is going to be critical to do the right work first. Then we're going to identify steps and resources that we need, and those steps will have to be clear and succinct. After that, communicate our plan out to various stakeholders and groups, as well as the Board of Education and the superintendent, and solicit feedback. That's going to be a critical part of the process. And then finally, implement and go back to the beginning in terms of assessing and prioritizing. This committee is going to continue to exist after school opens. And so this is going to be a cyclical process in which it's going to morph. Subcommittees are going to have ebbs and flows in terms of the amount of work that needs to get done throughout the summer into the school year. But I think it's important that we establish a clear process for our work. We have 3 phases.
Thank you. So our timeline, we did divide our committee, our process into 3 phases. We're currently in phase 1. As you can see, that really is the formation and development of the subcommittee or of the committee. We are now at June 8th, where we're presenting our proposal to the Board of Education. Our committee work in June will continue to work on surveying and getting results, forming our subcommittees, having our orientation for our meeting to get really settled for the work that will begin in phase 2. Our phase 2 work will backwards plan from the beginning of school on August 27th. So in order to prepare for that, we believe, and this is an anticipated schedule, but we believe that our committee, beginning on July 1st, will need to have subcommittee meetings weekly, full committees weekly. We want to make sure that every bi-weekly, we update the community and the Board of Education of our work. We do feel that it's important to continue to engage the community. Therefore, we would expect that we will have 1 time a month live parent and student focus groups to be able to engage our communities and hear from them. And then hopefully present a proposal to the Board of Education at the beginning of August so that we're prepared for the opening of school on August 27th. That will lead us then to the phase 3, which will be once school is started, how do we continue to monitor the effectiveness of our plan and then adjust to any changing guidelines that may present themselves.
Our communication plan right now is as follows. It's always subject to additions. And actually, Karen and I came up with an addition this morning that I'll share. We will be keeping track of minutes, progress, and next steps at each committee meeting and sharing that information with the superintendent's cabinet each week for feedback. We will update the Board of Education and the public at each publicly scheduled Board of Ed meeting. We will have weekly to bi-weekly updates to the community regarding the committee's progress, and live parent webinar, town hall meetings, and/or focus groups, as Karen spoke about. These 2 have different purposes. Focus group has a different purpose than a live webinar, town hall. So we'll assess our needs as we get closer to the beginning of July, and we see what the community is interested in terms of participation. And then, as Karen mentioned, a fall reopening plan presented to the Board of Ed by early August. The inclusion that I mentioned we came up with this morning is that we are going to create an email specific to the reopening committee, similar to the district created a COVID-19 email when we first closed, in which specific questions relative to COVID all went to that email and was checked by central office administration. We will do the same thing for the reopening committee so that parents and community members can filter questions, feedback, thoughts, all to one location so that we can ensure that we are hearing from as many people as possible. And with that, we will take questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tremendous amount of work. I see some hands up from board members. So Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I read through the plan and the structure this morning. Just a couple observations. 104 people on this committee, not including students, not including the 2 leads. I've delivered $100 million projects with far smaller teams that were far more complex than this. My hypothesis is we're going to be hamstrung by state recommendations. Massachusetts just pushed out theirs that are going to guide the vast majority of our decisions. But with 104 people on 7 committees, getting to consensus is going to be really challenging. I don't know if you've ever run a project that size, but it's every committee and every group of people you add adds a new dimension to it, and it timelines and everything else. And getting to that consensus is going to be a challenge. Now, working backwards from there, this is just an observation that we're probably going to be hamstrung by state guidelines, because if we deviate from that, we get sued or parents get angry or whatever. I've been talking in our emergency management teams to other districts, and I know one of them, for instance, already has polled their town and said, if it looks like X, how many of you aren't coming back? And the number was 32%. So we need to work backwards from, here's the scenarios. How many of you are not going to join us in the schools if these scenarios are it, based on state guidelines? Because we're not going to have that much wiggle room, I don't think. But this plan looks like we're designing something that we're not the architects of. So I'll
Sean, if I could, that may be the case. We may be over planning right now. We don't know that. And so I would rather have something in place that we have to tweak instead of trying to call folks together after the school year has ended and scramble. So I think your point, yes, it is a very large committee. And that is a big piece why we have the steering committee design in the way that we do, so that there can be strong organization to it. I think that if we are in the position of being guided by the state with very, very clear directives, it's only going to narrow the focus of each subcommittee, making their work more efficient. I think it's a valid perspective, and it's a valid point, and it will be my and Karen's work to support the subcommittees to organize and be as efficient as possible. And it's going to be a lot of work. It absolutely is. But the option of relying on the state was something that we didn't want to necessarily take a gamble with. So maybe in a place we are over planning.
I appreciate that, but with 104 people, first of all, I don't think the Normandy Beach landing had that many people involved in planning. But with, like I said, with 104 people, there's a lot of personalities, a lot of different perspectives. Getting to consensus is going to be just about impossible.
Noted. I hear you.
And I do just want to stress, Sean, that we will always be in compliance with any state guidelines that come in. So being out of compliance will not be one of our scenarios. But sometimes when the state does provide us guidance, there's not necessarily the specificity that we're going to need. So we're going to need to have those different scenarios to be able to respond to whatever guidelines they provide.
Just as in addition to that, is I have weekly calls with a representative from CAPS and the superintendents. And each week, Sean, the scenarios change from it being a state decision, possibly a local decision, a combination of scenarios within a combination of, to we're going back to school, to we're not. And so the one thing that I've learned over the past 3 months is that scenarios change weekly, or in some cases daily. So as soon as you confirm a graduation set of plans, something changes. And then there's ambiguity within that change. And that's not a judgment or a criticism on anyone, but ultimately it leads us to plan somewhat in some cases in a reactive way. And so what I'd like to really commend this committee for doing, and I think that failing to be prepared, right? Prepare to fail, is the more planning that they can have, scenario planning for the many different variables that will come our way, regardless of whether or not the state mandates. And when I say that is we spoke today just about a simple example of a student who may be incredibly healthy, but yet their family, whoever in their family, may not be. And so the vulnerability of that student, let's say coming to school, may be higher. Well, what is the plan for that particular student, regardless of what happens with any required structures that the State Department offers? We still have to plan for that type of scenario. That's one. I think if we were all sitting here speaking, we could probably think of many, many others. And so ultimately, the committee and parents obviously have reached out to us, and it is a larger committee, but in an effort to be inclusive, I know that was part of the reason there. But parents have reached out to us, and I can tell you that there's lots of different scenarios coming our way of things that I on my own would have never been able to think of, even with my cabinet and probably with 10 other people. So as proactive as we can be, given what we know at this moment in time, I think will benefit all of us in the long run. It's easier to pull back than to push forward.
Thank you. Other board member, Karina?
I just wanted to ask, having seen steering committees work before, Dr. Hanaway, will there be, kind of following up on Sean's thinking, a mission statement for each committee no matter what? Like one common theme is this is about the safety and wellness of students, and that's the driving force. Because there, I could see a conflict of interest of a business owner, or maybe a certain coach included in sports. Not knocking anyone, I'm just saying, as opposed to saying this is our mission, no matter which committee you're on. I don't know if you've given that thought yet.
I didn't want to jump in if Karen was, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I think he directed it to you, Liz.
That's okay, that's all right. We have, and we will be issuing a standard mission statement that's consistent across all subcommittees, yes.
And Karina, to your point, we will be having an orientation for our committee. So I know that the board members will have some questions tonight for us, but I do want to respect that Dr. Hanaway and I are co-chairs, but we do have a steering committee that we will need to vet some of these questions that you're going to answer, or, ask us tonight with.
Thank you. Other board member questions? Liz?
Hi, thank you. So I just have one comment and one question about the subcommittee. So the first one is, it's more of a comment or suggestion. We mentioned students, we mentioned meetings. With 104 people, fluid communication, there are lots of great technology tools that are free that we could potentially engage both the committees and the broader community in idea generation and information sharing in a much more fluid way. There are tools out there like Slack and even Google that I think could provide a better basis of engagement given the impact of this on every single community member, whether they're an employee or a parent or something. I think fluid communication and non-meeting based communication is a really good idea here. This is a fast timeline, and waiting on a weekly meeting is going to not be the most effective way to engage folks, especially when you talk about a student community, right? They may have better ideas than any of us. There may be a way to engage them a little more digitally than we might normally do. And I'm sure given the circumstances, some dispensations for information sharing or whatever could be made. Just a suggestion, you guys can take it back.
Great feedback. No, it's great feedback. Thank you.
So the second thing I was wondering about, each of the subcommittees has a distinct purpose, which is fantastic. I think it's a good way to focus people. But what I didn't see were financial impacts. We have to make sure we're tracking those for FEMA, but even in the short term, we know we have budget conversations later, but there are going to be financial impacts of every scenario. And I'm not sure that the people that are on those committees are necessarily going to understand that and be able to estimate those. And so I think a process to do that, either behind the scenes from the committees or to have a board of finance or somebody on each committee, at least at some time, might be something to consider, because, we may say, hey, we want 85 bus tiers. We can't afford that. So there are some real constraints that we should make sure the committees are aware of.
Thank you. That's good feedback as well. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Other Board of Education member questions, comments? Kathleen?
I think it's so important that you have the committees continue on, because once the school year opens, because we don't know what school's going to look like. We don't know what this virus, and I'm not sanguine that we're going to have schools that it's not going to come back and we're going to have to change. So I think it's so important that we keep these committees alive and keep all the scenarios and all of the options open, because as much as we can plan this summer, this is something we don't know what's going to happen. So I agree that it's important you have that committee, but it's also going to have to be in everybody's thinking and everybody's economic and financial planning as well.
I think the lessons that we've learned from other places, whether that's France or Singapore or South Korea, is that sometimes the best laid plans don't work out. They open, they had to close. So ultimately, and we know that that's happened with us as well, right? We had a plan for 2 weeks. We were going to be out of school for 2 weeks. All of a sudden it was longer, then it was longer. And we were learning that information as we went. And so ultimately plans will shift. I do think that the e-learning experience, we've learned a lot in the past 3 or 4 months, but there's still a lot, there's still great room to go with that. And depending upon where we land with the different types of scenarios, we're just going to have to process all of that through. What it looks like for 1 day versus what it looks like for 3 months is something that we're in a better position to be prepared for now than we were in March, learning about this all at one time, or at for the first time, really.
If I could just add as well, we are running a very small in-person extended school year this summer. We released that information to parents this past week. The information, even though it's a very, very, very small population that we'll be running for, the information we glean from that experience is going to be critical as well.
Other board member questions or comments? Nora?
No, I just want to commend the plan. The attention to detail is incredible. And as I was reading through it, I just feel like you really thought through every aspect. And I know from talking to a lot of parents that they feel very valued as possible members of the committees and excited to participate in those. So I think that that is really positive. And so I just think, well done. And the more we can do ahead of this, I think the better. Clearly, we may be over planning, but I think that that isn't a bad thing.
Thank you very much.
Any other board members?
I would just concur with Ms. Gatos. Very, very thoughtful, very, very complete, very well thought through.
Anyone else? I'll just add my 2 cents. I also want to say thank you so much for putting the structure together. As I talk with other board chairs from surrounding neighborhoods, the word overwhelming just keeps coming up again and again and again as we talk about reopening for many of the reasons that we've all just spoken about. But again, thank you. I know it's a heavy lift. Thank you for including as many members of our community as you felt had a stake in the outcome of this. I too, though, would just like to echo that from a financial standpoint, it would be very good to have that financial implication in real time while the committees are meeting, but then also, to be able to report back to the board, because I think we all are understanding that we're going to have to be doing some finance and budgetary work over the summer to make sure that our schools can open with the funds that are needed to open them, whatever that may be.
Well, we will do that.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret.
Okay, anyone else before we move topics? All right, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to our next agenda item, which is Bylaw 9325.2, Agenda Order of Business. We spoke about this in our last Board of Ed meeting on the 26th. What we talked about was wanting to delete this bylaw because what it does is it prescribes the order of the Board of Education meeting agenda. The reason we were talking about deleting it is because it doesn't allow us for the flexibility of being able to adjust our agenda for situations like this, where we're in Zoom meetings, or for other purposes. So again, we talked in our last meeting about actually deleting this bylaw. The mechanism under which we do that, our bylaws are actually considered a unit together. It's not like, unlike our policies, which is one policy and one policy, the bylaws are a unit of bylaws. So we actually have to amend the unit of bylaws. So that's the mechanism to be able to delete this specific one. So that being said, do I have a motion to amend the bylaws of the Ridgefield Board of Education to delete the bylaw 9325.2 agenda-order of business? Karina?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education amend the bylaws of the Ridgefield Board of Education to delete the specific bylaw 9325.2 agenda order of business.
Do I have a second? Liz? Any discussion or questions? Okay, there being none, we will go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion and deleting the bylaw, please raise your hand. 9. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. On to the next fiscal year 2021 Board of Education budget. Just to set the stage for the conversation, the Board of Education approved budget, as we know, was $102,081,952, which was a 3.96% year over year from last year. The Board of Finance appropriated amount is $99,912,151, which is a 1.75% increase year over year. So in order for us to meet the Board of Finance appropriated amount, we needed to find $2,169,801 from our approved budget to get to the appropriated amount. In our last meeting, Dr. De Silva presented a list of areas of reduction for consideration, and the board then discussed them. Tonight, we'll follow up on questions coming out of that meeting, have further discussion, and ultimately vote on the budget. We do need to vote tonight so that the business office has time to set up that budget before the new fiscal year starts July 1st. Dr. De Silva, I don't know if you
So the only part that I would add, Margaret, and hopefully the memos that relate to the board agenda are helpful and provide some additional context. At our last meeting, Ms. Drake had asked for additional color with respect to the transition coordinator, and we included that color in the memo. So if for those that have additional questions, we'll be glad to take them now. In addition to that, we've received a number of emails regarding the art, specifically at the elementary level. And given that number of emails, I added in to our memo both the sample art schedule, which has had some shifts. I believe you received an additional copy earlier tonight. The accurate one is on the website. It was a small shift with just about 10 minutes of time. And I've also included the instructional minutes chart because I think that is important for both the public and the Board of Education to know in terms of context about how many minutes are allocated for what special area. And the reason those two things in combination are important is because if we're looking for increases in art time or music time or anything else for that matter, you have to look at it in context with all of the other minutes. So if I have additional art or music or PE, then that means that time has to come out of another allocated time, whether that's content area time or another special area time. There's only so many minutes in a day, and this is how they're allocated. I believe that there's approximately 410 minutes in a school day, and 405 of those are allocated. What's not allocated there is transition time. And anyone who knows elementary school children, in particular the primary grades, K1, 2, transitions are often longer than your intermediate grades. That's not allocated here. So in many ways, even though we have time, I hate to say it, but it's true. It's ish, right? It's ishy. There's 60 minutes for lunch and recess. Well, we know that it takes 5 to 10 minutes to get a whole class of children from one end of a building, perhaps to the lunch area, and no different from getting the children in from the playground area. Same thing as we transition from math to reading, and certainly anytime we move. So I think that that's important context for us to see when we're speaking about the special areas. The special areas with art in particular, we have a late school and an early school, and those two numbers are actually reversed. Late school is 16 sections in this example, and the early school is 18 sections, but the number of classes are the same. And so what you'll notice that we've done here is we've allocated art classes, 45 minutes per 6-day cycle. And then we've also allocated the time for lunch and prep on the part of a teacher, as well as some of the other programs that came up at our last meeting. So I think with this, some folks may look at it and say, okay, it's fine, it makes perfect sense. Others might say it's a tight schedule. And I think that's perhaps both sides are are an accurate representation of what's here. In some cases, when you're looking at 18 sections, it's a tighter schedule. When it's 16 sections, it's going to be not as tight. And so therefore we have to just remember that we have to be flexible with our teachers. And if there's at times an opportunity for a teacher to stay at one building for a little bit longer, when there's some flexibility, then we would hope that our principals would collaborate around that. But essentially that's what I have here, and I'm glad to take any questions on the transition coordinator. Actually, Dr. Hanaway would, and certainly Mr. Kreller, who's worked very closely with the art schedule, and the principals could answer any questions related to that. And that's basically it.
So what we can do actually is, if we want to make a motion regarding accepting the superintendent's recommended reductions to get us down to the appropriated amount, that can open up discussion. And then if there's any movement and people wanted to talk about different areas to look at, that can then be an amendment to the motion, if that's okay for everybody. So Karina, do we have a motion regarding the budget?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education approve the superintendent's recommended reductions to the Board of Ed approved budget and adopt the revised Board of Education 2020-2021 Ridgefield Public School operating budget totaling $99,912,151, an increase of $1,718,391 year to year, in order to meet the amount allocated by the Board of Finance.
Do I have a second? Jonathan? Okay, and now we can go ahead and discuss, ask questions of Dr. De Silva and Mr. Kreller. Rachel.
Good evening, everybody. I know this has not been an easy budget season. I do still have questions specifically on the 3 FTE special area teachers. So number one, well, I guess let me back up for just a second. My concern really falls on the health, curriculum, and staff concerns regarding the reduction of the 3 FTE special area teachers. Number one, the traveling aspect is a health concern of mine still. I shared at the last Board of Education meeting that the health risk, I believe, forms from having one teacher in front of a population of students for 3 days, and then in front of another population for 3 days, worries me. My concern stems from what happened, unfortunately, at nursing homes, where nurses would travel from one location to another, spreading the virus unknowingly. During the time from our last Board of Education meeting to today, Governor Lamont did put out his rules for operating summer school during COVID-19. It's dated June 1st, 2020. I'm going to read you something from it, but the reason why I'm doing that is because summer school starts July 6th and we start school end of August. So the time period really isn't that much to go. In it is consistent teams. And it says, if more than one adult is required in a classroom, encourage staff to work in consistent teams to minimize cross-contamination of student groups. Prioritize keeping the same group of adults and students together each day when possible. So I really am against this reduction for number one, the health concern. I do have other concerns as well. I thank you for more material regarding the schedules. I want to question the integrity of the art program and if it will still be intact. So table 1, is that a sample of 2020, 2021? The table?
Mr. Kreller, do you want to take that? That's actually, I believe this schedule is this current year.
Oh, it's this current year?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so it's this current year. Okay.
That's
so
correct.
I just want to want to make sure that going forward for next year, to be a voice for our special education students, I want to make sure that RISE Art will not be eliminated, nor the time diminished in our students receiving that class. I also have concerns on how it will impact our Student Accountability Index, specifically Indicator 12, Art Access. And then the other, dealing with schedules, is on the elementary level this year. I believe we had a rotation each trimester. So students would receive either art, LLC, or music twice in that trimester, and then once in the following trimester. Would that still occur in this model, or would it not occur, since a teacher would be in one school 3 days and in another school another 3 days? And then I have one more piece. It doesn't seem to allow for a lot of time for setup, cleanup of projects, and ultimately engaging in school-wide events or art shows. I am really concerned with the number of students and their needs that the teacher will have to meet coming out of a pandemic situation, where we held virtual learning from mid-March until the end of the school year. I'm thinking of the teacher's health as well as their access and availability to a particular school community. So what am I asking for? In summary, I feel very strongly that each elementary school should have its own art teacher. I ask that we please go back and see if we can restructure things so that we do not have to make this particular reduction this year. Those areas could include professional development and technology. Thank you.
Rachel, what can I just comment on a few?
Yes,
and perhaps Mr. Cruller wants to comment on a few others, and I'm just going to comment on them and take it as you want. I believe that this is not only so your point about the health needs of our students, I just want to comment on that. And Karen may be able to add more, but I do know that we do have other teachers that travel. So for example, the orchestra teacher or band teacher, I believe they travel among 3 schools. It's likely certain that others are as well. I think psychologists may also travel. I believe related services staff also travel. So if that's going to be an issue, I think then we just need to consider that for other staff as well. So it's not just limited to the art teachers, but so I just wanted to share that point. With respect to RISE Art, I'm actually going to turn that over to Dr. Hanaway. I do not believe that RISE Art is necessarily a part of a student's IEP. I do believe it's an activity that currently at some of our schools, our students receive, but not necessarily consistently. So I can't speak to will students receive the exact amount of time that they're receiving now, because I don't believe there was an exact amount of time. I think there was time at times that was provided to our children in the RISE program, but not necessarily a consistent amount of time. So I'll let Dr. Hanaway add to that in a moment. The Student Accountability Index, in terms of access of to art programs, our students obviously would still have that. And this is well in line with what other communities also have. I'll let Mr. Kreller speak to the rotation, but you're accurate in that students would not receive that additional art class within the rotation. So that's an accurate assessment. And I think I may, as for the allowing of setting up in the events, it is certainly a tighter schedule. Having said that, this is also what our other classroom teachers receive, right? They receive prep and they receive lunch and they teach throughout the day and have to do everything that comes with teaching throughout the day, transitions between one content area to another, grading, assessing, all of those other pieces come into play in a traditional day that looks very much like this one. But Dr. Hanaway, why don't you speak to the RISE Art, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Kreller to speak to some of those other pieces.
Sure. So RISE does not exist in every single one of our elementary schools. RISE is a special program for students dependent on their level of need and profile of disability. And so for those schools that do have RISE, it's not mandatory that students participate in an additional art on top of the art that they participate in with their grade level. So what Rise Art is it's an additional experience. It could be an entire class period. It could be partial of a class period. And dependent on the group, it may not take place at all. One of our cohorts of Rise in one of the elementary schools does not participate in Rise Art at all, because the compilation of those students, they're fully integrated within the context of their general education art classes, and that, that cohort, it hasn't taken advantage of it. Other cohorts have taken advantage of it in a consistent basis, meaning they have their regular ed art class, and then they may have Rise Art every week or every other week for a designated period of time. So it's inconsistent, and it also will change, just like the presentation and the needs of students will change. Does that answer what it is? And so to Susie's point before, it's not written into an IEP. Art is not a special education or related services recognized by the state of Connecticut, but we do avail it to students so that they're more readily able to access what's happening in their general ed art class. There are other ways to accomplish that too within the Rise structure, other than having distinct Rise Art. But I can also let Craig speak to where Rise Art fits with the proposed model for next year.
Great. Hi, Rachel. Thank you for your questions. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. I wanted to talk about two things that you said. One, Dr. De Silva has already addressed about the movement of teachers from building to building and sharing of staff. And we do that in many, many areas between middle schools and high schools. In terms of the extra art, it's true. Students will not get that double dip or extra rotation of art, but that practice was somewhat inconsistent and occurred for about 1/3 of the year or one trimester. The interesting thing about the schedule that you have in your packet, though, and that's on our website now, is that we actually increased the time for the specials from 40 to 45 minutes, and both the principals, myself, and the team calculated out the actual reduction in minutes of art is only about 250 minutes. So it's not as severe as some would imagine. That's really only 5 or 6 art classes across an entire year. So it's not that dramatic. And in terms of prep, if you look at the schedule itself, and Dr. Hanaway alluded to this, you'll see that there are chunks of time, about 20 minutes in the morning, the full lunch prep in the afternoon, just like the regular classroom teachers, and then about 35 minutes at the end of the day as well, which leaves time for not only Rise Art, but Art Leap and other activities and school beautification and art shows, and perhaps even some sharing of staff between the two sister schools. So we feel there's an opportunity, certainly up to 18 class sections, to have time for some of the great things that our art teachers do.
I thank you for your responses. I still don't feel comfortable with it, but I do thank you for your responses. Listen, I know everybody has a job to do, and it's not easy. And I do wish we could go back though and see if we can restructure things differently. I don't know if any of the other board members have any other input to put into that.
Karina?
I think, Rachel, kind of what you're bringing up is, I think Dr. De Silva spoke to this too. There's a separate conversation as what is our culture, what is our value? And if there was a high level, not ceiling level of art that we value as a school district, is that the conversation we should be having? We talk about personalized learning for all kids. And many children have extracurricular opportunities, different clubs. Some kids, this is where they excel. They may not go on a special math path, but some of those, and it may not be fair, as you spoke to, Dr. De Silva, some of our schools may not have the same enrichment art as others, but that is the question I'd pose to this board. Should we aim for the bottom? Should we aim for the ceiling of what we offer? And is that the real debate we're having?
And the only pushback that I would say there, Karina, is then, is it different for the schools that are bigger than the schools that are smaller? And so legitimately, you all bring up, you really are looking at what you value in your schools. The one piece that I would push back on is whatever we value, it should be consistently valued among our 6 schools. We did have to make tight budget cuts and the schedules are tight. Could you alleviate some of the tightness by adding an additional staff member in? Theoretically, you could. If you had 3 staff members, would you consistently add in art, or would you look at other areas such as world language? You know, those are all things that I think at some point are worth a discussion. Why is it here now? I think it's been here for a number of years before my time, because we've had to make budget decisions. And when we looked at what we were offering our children consistently, could we offer a program that was consistent among our 6 schools? We could. With less staff, we could. Is it tight? A little bit. I would say that it is. Was it tight if we go up or down a section? Can we still make it work? Yeah, we'll have to make some shifts in schools. It sounds like we can. But ultimately, yes, it is about value, and you might value this, you might value more something else. The only pushback that I would say as your superintendent, it should be consistently valued among the 6 schools as a community, not just the schools that are smaller.
I agree with you, and that's the discrepancy that I see. I just don't know if we're, and I respectfully just feel like we are going in the wrong direction. I feel like we should be building up the art programs for all the schools when we have data saying that we have increased anxiety in our schools. And I feel like we have 24 emails from parents and a petition saying that as well. And this is a community that really values the arts, and something that we're proud of. And each time this has come up, we've really heard from our families about how important that is in Richfield and in our community. And I would only add that we have these adaptive tools and technology for other things. We don't have it for art. We can't put children on Dreambox to meet them where they are and move along. They have to have access to the materials and use their hands, which we know is so important, and they have such little time in the classroom to cut and paste and glue. And we hear that from parents too. So I'm sharing that maybe it's a little bit of a different conversation if other board members want to chime in and how you feel about that.
I think I saw Nora's hand before, and then Kathleen, I'll get to you.
Okay, well, you know, I mean, I know the cuts have to come from somewhere. I want to acknowledge, though, the unbelievable amount of emails that we got from parents in favor of keeping the 6 art teachers, and just acknowledge that, because it wasn't so long ago that we were sitting here wanting the Board of Finance to acknowledge all of the parent emails in favor of the budget. I also had brought this up a while back, but want to echo Rachel and Jean earlier, who spoke about the PD. I just feel like in such a year that we're going to be facing, where travel and bringing people in from the outside is such an unknown, it seems like an area that really should be looked at, and also capitalizing on the talent that we have in our own school district or even a neighboring school district to really use those people as PD and offer it that way would make so much more sense. And I think that if we were able to look at that as opposed to the 3 art teachers, then we would be valuing the human capital over the delivery of information. So that would be my feeling, but I totally understand the cuts have to come from somewhere. I just really wish it wasn't people.
Thank you. Kathleen.
You know, I'm going to jump right off from where Nora was. And we did hear from so many families. This is my 3rd budget season. And every time the principals of all the elementary schools, as well as the superintendents and administrators, have said that the art budget is not funded equally among the schools. That being said, I parsed the numbers today. And yes, you know, if you just go down to the bottom basics, so many more students that each art teacher is going to have to teach. But they're going to have, as on an average, 4.3 contact hour, 4 hours, 0.3 per day, you know, for each student. So in the best possible world, art is my passion. We are an arts community. I know for many children, art is what makes them blossom. Other children it isn't. Other children it's PE. Other children it's another art. It's music. So at this point, I'm willing to listen to the people who work with the students and look at it for a year and really analyze it for a year. And also jumping off what Nora said and what I've heard from teachers and what I've been hearing, and the PD, we're bringing in people from outside in a year that we don't know what's going to happen. I would consider looking at that kind of money to having PD maybe to help our teachers work with children as they're coming back to the school, not bringing people from the outside, but looking at how can we analyze where the COVID slide is. So many other ways to manage the professional development from within to create assessment. So I'm just saying a lot of things. So I, at this point, would love to have an art teacher in each school. And I understand that they're a touchstone for many children, but in this tight budget season, the money has to come from somewhere. We hear it again and again, but I would not want to say this is what we're doing forever. It's something we'd have to look at. It is a tight schedule. It's going to be hard. The number of students that teacher has to touch is going to be too many, but I'm just putting it out there. But I also agree, we have to look at outside PD. But it's not going to make up for the art teachers in terms of dollars and cents.
Other board members? Sean?
I'm confused. Dr. Silva, maybe you can clarify for me. My understanding was these 3 teachers would put those 3 schools on par with what the other schools were doing. Have I misunderstood this? It sounded like there was an inequity there that we were tackling as well.
So yeah, so if I'm understanding your question, Sean, is that right now the schedules are more similar. There is a little bit of there's the same number of minutes that children will be receiving for art. So the difference in a school with 16 sections versus 18 sections, let's just say, is there will be more quote unquote free time, right? So that could be preparing for an art show, that could be offering an integrated session for RISE or pre-teaching. What that also can mean though, is during an art event, that teacher is going to go spend the morning at the school with 18 sections versus 16 sections because they're preparing for an art show. So there has to be a little bit of flexibility in terms of consistency. Absolutely. In this schedule, all children are receiving one period of 45 minutes of art every 6 days.
But in the current environment, we had 3 schools that had more than the other 3 schools.
That's correct. That is correct.
So we're through this, we're actually solving for that.
We're solving for consistency. That's absolutely correct, Sean. So with this schedule, every student will receive the same amount of art. With this schedule, all children will receive the same amount of music, library, PE, etc. That was not consistent in the past. It was moving in that direction, just wasn't there. And of course, if you have additional art staff, I'm assuming at that point, they're either going to pull kids out for an extra session or use the time for some of the things that Rachel described, beautification, et cetera. But ultimately if you have somebody there in a building, let's just say of 16 sections, right? If you're able to do it in 3 days, ultimately they have 5 days, right? So those extra 2 days are on other things. Not to say that these are bad things, these are all great things. But is there consistency? There isn't. There isn't parity. There just can't be, right? That's simple math.
Thank you.
But all the other points are well taken. I think that we have to remember professional development, if we're going to go down that conversation just for a minute, is if we're in a virtual environment, we're not offering teachers coaching. That's just not where our priority is. We're going to be offering, and we have to offer, professional learning around technology. We know that that's an area of need for our staff. So with the PD, we'll have to shift significantly if we're in a virtual environment or planning for that.
If I could just jump back in that. I think if we use math as an example, when we're looking at art, just to go back at that, if we had said we have 3 elementary schools that have an enrichment math program that benefits the students, and it wasn't equal to the other, we wouldn't go down, we would build up. And I think that's what I'm advocating for. rather than going the other way. And I think that's kind of what parents, some parents aren't necessarily aware that there were what Sean's alluding to, two different experiences happening. But when we look at it with our other subjects, we would never have, you know, an honors experience for one set of students and not in the other schools. And I think when we look at it as math, that's how I'm looking at it. For the student who's advanced or has a love for that there's an opportunity that maybe we're doing something well, just putting it, and of course I'm going to mention the PD. I think that the board has pretty much said, I almost all of us at one point or the other, that we wouldn't want to see a contract signed with TC. So I don't think we're saying we don't want professional development. I think we want to know what it is so that we can vote on that. And I don't speak for all of you, but I'm uncomfortable voting for, yes, we want PD, and then finding out that we're going to sign that contract anyway.
Karina, let me just go to the first point. The TC, I think, is a different matter, but let me just go to the first point and then I'll touch the CC as well. The first point about the math, because I'm just trying to conceptualize what you're saying. And you're right, if we were offering an honors math class, we wouldn't take away, we would make sure that all of our children had the opportunity to receive an honors math class. One of the first things this group did prior to me even being here is they had a discussion philosophically around what's appropriate time to teach math, what's appropriate time to teach ELA, what's the appropriate time to teach writing, phonics. What do we know in terms of research about what students should have? What do our peers do? Of course, we do that, right? What makes sense in terms of PE? What makes sense in terms of music, library, technology, art? From there, that's where the decisions happen. So in the way in which you just described it, yes, I would suggest that's a bad idea. When we want to draw parity, we take away from others, but that's not exactly the way that the process went. The process went philosophically first, and then philosophically, what could we do? What would be the scenarios? And then from there, that's where the decision made 3, let's say a cut of 3. Trying to keep one person in a building the entire day so that we didn't lose transition time, traveling between schools. The issue around TC obviously predates me a bit, but ultimately the conversations that we've had, at least since I've been here, have been that it is what our teachers know. Do we need to keep this model? Perhaps not in the future. Do we need to keep this model if we come back to a traditional school year next year? Yes, because that's what we've planned for. Do we need to look at other things around early literacy and phonics? Sounds to me, based on everything that I'm hearing and from what I'm learning in my entry plan, yes, that's a priority for this district. What that's going to look like, and if we have to make shifts, at this point, we have not committed with a signature with Teachers College or any other organization, knowing that or at least we've acknowledged the fact that any signature of any contract would require that organization to understand that if we're in a virtual world, that will have to look different. Because clearly we're not going to leverage that work over other work that might need to happen in terms of priorities. That's with Teachers College and actually any other PD that we might associate ourselves with. But I think they're two separate issues. It's what did we commit to our teachers right now? And what we've committed to our teachers is what they know, Teachers College, whether that's the actual purchase of the units and or the professional learning. Is there an opportunity to grow from that? I don't doubt that there is, Karina, especially if that's what this board wants us to do. But I do think that that has to be done in a planned, thoughtful manner so that teachers understand it, are a part of the process, and understand the scope of the work. That's where I stand on that. And I understand that there's a lot that's happened before me. But even still, that's where I would still position myself right now. It is what our teachers know. It's the approach that they're planning on teaching next year. And they do require professional learning. It's not everybody gets it and then we're done. And that's with anything. That's with math, that's with science, that's with social studies. And I would argue in the teaching of reading, the complexity is far more sophisticated, at least from my point of view. It's far more sophisticated, and that professional learning is incredibly important. Again, philosophically, there may be some other things that will take a priority in the future years, but right now, at this moment in time, I would hate to take away something that teachers know, or at least have our children are comfortable with, and not to insert something in there I think wouldn't be fair.
Craig Preller.
I'm sorry.
So Karina, I wanted to answer that question directly. The TC conversation is a separate conversation, but I wanted to remind the new members of the board that last year we cut our consulting and professional development lines at the elementary, middle, and high school level by 50%. And that is the money we use to fuel and fund 2 new line items, which were science and social studies, which we never had before. And I'm eternally grateful to the Board of Education for establishing those 2 line items. And this year, with the flat funding, we're already experiencing a cut, or will experience a cut in curriculum of over $100,000. So I just wanted to kind of put that in perspective. The reason we were able to jumpstart NGSS science and our social studies line items last year was by cutting professional development and consulting by 50% at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. So that's where
I know that happened, Craig, but we also know that the budget was voted upon, the taxpayers voted on it, a lab site was cut last year. And then after that vote, that money was transferred and we spent the money on TC that the taxpayers didn't vote on.
Other board member questions? Jonathan, did I see your hand earlier?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is now the 3rd year in a row that the art overage in 3 schools has come before this board. 3 different superintendents brought it to us. Last year, we couldn't make the change because we had schools on 2 different schedules, the 5-day versus the 6-day, and now we have the ability to bring equity to the 6 schools with art. Is it moving it all down to the level that 3 schools already were at? Yes. But there was never a decision that I'm aware of at this board to provide honors level or additional art to the 3 smaller schools and not to the other 3. I don't like the idea of reducing the art, but in this budget climate, I'm okay with doing it. Hoping looking forward that we get to a point where we are adding back in the future, at which point we make a decision as a group. What is it that we're adding in? Is it additional art? Is it world language? What is it that we want to add to the elementary schools to make the students' lives better at that point?
Nora, I see your hand, and then Rachel, yours.
Just to piggyback on what Jonathan said, I just wanted to bring clarity to that. I mean, it's come up a few times, but just for Dr. De Silva to sort of repeat. So basically that this has been a discussion prior to you and prior to COVID, that that there be equity among the 6 schools in art, and that this wasn't just something that came on this year. Is that correct?
So I mean, this board could probably share better than I can, but what I do know, Nora, is that coming on actually in January, that was one of the first conversations I had with Dr. Patty Foote, led by her, that we were overstaffed in the area of art and there wasn't consistency among the schools, which we know, right? Because just based on the number of students. And so as a result of that conversation, when we came into this budget season, I was able to ask that question again. And by that time, there were already discussions that were happening with the principals and Mr. Kreller around philosophically, because that matters most. It really goes at what Karina's saying, is that what end are you starting in? Because you really can't make decisions around budget. You can't make budget decisions without understanding philosophically what you believe in first. And sometimes it's not what you necessarily believe in. Some of us may believe that we want 90 minutes of art, right? But ultimately, when we start looking at all of the opportunities that our children have for learning across a day, what makes the most sense? And this is what our principals alongside Mr. Kreller decided. Would our principals prefer to have a full-time art teacher? Of course they would. Would they prefer not to lose their art teacher? Of course they would. Why? Because those are people in their building that they care dearly for and have worked really hard and are incredibly talented. And having the extra staff there allows for flexibility with a lot of different things. But ultimately, we're charged with thinking about what do we need for our children, and then what can we do from a budget perspective, right? We may be coming back next year and saying, okay, why don't we look at what else we could be offering our children? Or maybe we want, the schedule is too tight and we feel like we need a little bit more in arts, or perhaps there has to be something integrated. But at this point, Jonathan is right. From what I understand, 3 superintendents, 3 years in a row. And ultimately, if this board decides to put our teachers back in, then I would ask at some point that, what do you want us to look at in terms of making things make sense? Because it's a lot of time and energy that people are spending on thinking about. And what I would also ask this board is, then what do you want some students not to experience? Because they have to experience that second page of the day. And if not, then are we going to say that at some schools, children experience less of blank? And so that's another conversation that would, have to be made. All of the points that were brought up, I understand them. And certainly I feel for the art teachers, we're in the month of June. It's a long time. It's a short time for them to look for perhaps another position, possibly, right? So all of those things being said, I still ultimately, when I come back to what makes this, and also just another piece is the professional development, you can cut that. But if we're saying, well, we're going to cut it for this year, that's a short-term cut. We're going to be back at it next year, right? And the professional development would go back in, and yet the art teachers are still there. So, ultimately we have to make a decision. We need to move forward with our budget. I understand everything that everyone is saying, and these are emotional cuts. They're people, and they're people that we value, and we value their work. But we were charged with making decisions around the budget, and some of them are a little bit harder than others. But I do believe that we looked at what programming and what we could do holistically, and that's what we offered this board.
No, I thank you for the clarity. And I think I was just really wanting for parents to hear that, it was about the equity, and that this was a discussion that was happening well before COVID, and that, it is something that the principals also have seen for years. So thank you.
Doesn't mean that they like it, though.
Yeah.
I have to make sure I protect those principals, because
Absolutely.
I know that it's hard for them. And I was an elementary principal. So if you told me I was losing staff, that would break my heart.
Absolutely.
But they certainly understand, for sure.
Thank you.
Rachel, I think you had your hand.
Thank you, Dr. De Silva. I know this isn't an easy discussion. If we could just maybe go back to the equity piece for the art in the elementary school. I'm trying to wrap my head around how it would be inequitable. Was it just the amount of sections? What were they doing then in the time that I guess they weren't teaching? And then why doesn't it affect music? Other special areas, if they were overstaffed, was it a student number thing? Then why is it just art?
Okay, so I'll speak to part of it, and then I think Craig can speak to the nitty gritty on some of the other specials. Your first part of your question, Rachel, was this an issue of only equity, or what were other people doing? So let's just say a school has 16 sections and another has 19 or 20. That means that one teacher is going to formally teach 16 sections, and the other one's going to formally teach 19 or 20. So then where does the inequity come? The children in the 16 section school will receive perhaps more art, or perhaps that art teacher is going to have additional planning time, right? They can prepare for all the other events, or maybe run another art leap program, which from what I understand, has been inconsistently applied as well across the 6 schools. Or if they're offering another art class, like they might be, then that means that the children in that smaller school are receiving an additional art class, therefore missing what, right? So if I've just given you 405 minutes of a 410-minute school day, and you've added another art, once another, 2 in a 6-day rotation, let's just say, then we're pulling 45 minutes or 40 minutes out of something. So they're getting less of something. We don't know what that something is, because that could have been different and could have been different by class or by school. But that's where the inequity comes. Is this decision only based off of inequity? That would not be true. The truth is, we had to make budget decisions. These conversations were had before this particular budget year, right? Because in the 3.96, you had 6 art teachers. And you likely had 6 art teachers because, with all due respect, each time it came to the board, it never passed. So that's probably why you still had 6 art teachers. When you had to make budget cuts, you're going to look at your programs in general, you're going to look at your staff and say, okay, what can we continue to offer our children where we don't feel like we're taking something away, and make some budget decisions. With respect to some of the other specials, part of the reason that, and Craig, you could probably get into the weeds, but part of the reason it doesn't impact others is because the amount of instrumental that a group might receive, and or the number of those specials. So if they're receiving 245 minutes, and what's left, so those bits that are left, Rachel, are not enough to have them go to another building, right? So there's still going to be some bits here and there, but not as many as, let's just say, 3. You might have been able to pull out a 0.1 here and there, but not enough. Craig, could you speak more to that? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Dr. De Silva, you said it very well, so I don't want to recover that, but a gym teacher in an 18-section school, which would be one of our larger schools, would teach every section twice. So 36 out of a potential 36 classes in a 6-day cycle. And the same for music, which Dr. De Silva correctly described. So they would teach all 18 sections of music, but they also teach instruments and chorus and band. So they're almost completely full. So that is basically the same situation that the art teachers will have now, except the art teachers will do 3 days at one school and 3 days at another school, but with the goal of everyone teaching 36 out of 36, or as close to it as we can in a fair and equitable way. So that really is a direct answer to your question, Rachel. And I just want to reiterate what Dr. De Silva said earlier. None of these are recommended cuts, right? We'd like to be having a discussion tonight about how we're going to spend 3.96, but when you get down to 1.5 and 1.75, these are very difficult decisions. And part of the process that the principals and I have gone through over the past year is to decide, well, what is an FTE? What is a full load? How many classes do people teach in a 6-day cycle? And the schedule that you have in your packet is as close to equitable and the same at every school as we can possibly get all 4 of our current specials.
Thank you.
Ken, I think I saw your hand earlier.
No, I just wanted to just make sure it's staying at the forefront of what we're talking about. I think the single largest thing that has sort of hamstrung the entire budget process, not only from the town being able to, well, the town could give us what the town could give us, and presumably they're making their decisions based on what they think is best for the town. For a lot of these parents, for everyone that lives here, and again, including the students. So they're doing the best that they can. With a 1.75% increase, that's actually less than flat for the schools, because a good, we'll say 2.75%, close to 3% of our budget is tied up in the contractual obligations. And these are contracts, for the most part, that we weren't able to revisit, that people were unwilling to negotiate with the town or with the Board of Education, where perhaps there could have been concessions or some type of work with us where there could have been mutually beneficial to both parties, and wouldn't have been made us have to face some of these more dire choices that we're facing. I just as that comes up, and we got a 1.75% increase, but the contractual obligations were far exceeded that. So we're actually not at a flat budget from an operations perspective. It's a negative budget, and we're having to make cuts, which and the parlance I'm used to, we're cutting into the bone of our school system. And I just want that point to be made, and at the forefront of people's mind. That's the biggest single thing that has hamstrung us during this process.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from board members on any aspect of the Karina?
My final comment on this is virtual or in person. Teachers College methodology that we are spending taxpayer dollars on is not evidence-based. So it doesn't matter if we're in person and it's inequitable, that child who cannot access that curriculum is left behind at a time that we are going through COVID and kids need more support. I just would still rather see that funding used for the things that meet the moment and that the students need. Because of my experience as a board member, I have concerns that time will go on, money will get transferred, and that contract will get signed, even though I don't know how many board members now have spoken out about that contract. A vast majority, I think. So that's a concern of mine going forward. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to say about it, but that's regardless of what teachers know. Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we do better, right? We know better, but we're not doing better. We are making a bad investment instead of a good investment in professional development. And I hold myself accountable as a board member. So how I vote tonight, I hold myself accountable. I cannot vote for something that isn't evidence-based that I feel hurts children.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, we've got a motion on the table. I'll just reread the motion. And then what I'll do from a vote standpoint, I'll actually do a roll call just so it's easier to be able to see who's voted. So again, the motion on the table is that the Board of Education approve the superintendent's recommended reductions to the Board of Education approved budget and adopt the revised budget for fiscal year 21, totaling $99,912,151 for a 1.75% year-over-year increase. Okay, so if you are in favor of that motion, please say yes. If you're not in favor, please say no, and I'll do a roll call. Karina Drake.
No.
Liz Flogel.
Yes.
Nora Gatos.
Yes.
Kathleen Holz.
Yes.
Rachel Ruggieri.
No.
Sean McAvoy.
Yes.
Ken Schoberg.
Yes.
Jonathan Steckler.
Yes.
Me, I'm a yes. So the motion passes 7-2. Thank you. And before we move on in the agenda, I just want to say thank you to Dawn Norton and Dr. De Silva and your teams. This has been a really complex budget process this year. The appropriation process itself has been challenging and unprecedented, but it's made even more difficult when layered with the uncertainty of expenses in the current year and negotiations, as well as end of year surplus. And even more so by the uncertainty of what additional unbudgeted expenses we will incur next year just to reopen schools. So thank you from all of us to you for all of your time, effort, and expertise in moving this budget forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of late nights and early mornings.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 5D, which is Connecticut General Statute 10-248A, otherwise known as the non-lapsing account. Again, we spoke about this in our last Board of Education meeting. Since that time, the Board of Finance met on Friday, June 5th, and briefly started conversations around the potential for establishing a non-lapsing account under that general statute section. And into that account, they could deposit unexpended funds from this year's Board of Ed budget or surplus. What they talked about in that meeting was mostly about the mechanism of the non-lapsing account, understanding the statute and the Ridgefield Charter appropriation process. And they also talked a little bit about why this year might be different, why they might consider it this year versus having not considered it in the past years. And I think that goes to the fact that there's a general acknowledgement from all the boards that we expect there will be increased costs to the school district due to COVID and school reopening issues in August and the fall. And that those funds are not included in the fiscal year 21 operating budget that we just adopted. and that we don't know what those costs will be. They are going to, we will find out some over the summer, and there will probably be many even that come up during the school year next year, as we talked about earlier when we talked about the reopening committee. So while the Board of Education has had some of our own preliminary conversations, we haven't taken any official action. So what I'm asking the Board of Education to consider is, in order for the Board of Finance to have further conversations, we actually need to submit an official request to them for them to consider opening a non-lapsing account. So tonight, that's what I'm asking, is for you to authorize me to send them a memo with a request for them to consider the non-lapsing account. So Karina, do I have a motion regarding that?
I move that the Board of Education authorize the Board of Ed Chair to request that the Board of Finance establish a non-lapsing account under the framework of Connecticut General Statute 10-248A.
Do I have a second? Kathleen? Okay. Any comments or questions? Again, this is just about sending a memo. Go ahead, Sean. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Is this a one-year event, or is this an in perpetuity event?
I think that's something that the Board of Finance would have to discuss. Again, the state statute allows for one of these funds to be established, but it's pretty clear that how that gets established and the guidelines around it are to be established with the local Board of Finance, with the Board of Education input. So that would be one of the discussion items for them to consider. I think a next step that would come out of this, let's say you were to authorize me to write a letter for them to request them to consider doing a non-lapsing account. If they then were to take action on that and establish one, we would enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Board of Finance that established the guidelines around it. And it could be, that it's only a one-year thing, or it could be a multi-year thing. And it would also have some parameters around what the funds could be used for.
So we open the door, and they get to decide if it's 1 year or in perpetuity. Are we going to give them any guidance on that?
We would work with them on that, yes.
Okay.
As well as the amount. Is that right, Margaret?
Well, I mean, as the statute says, it's whatever the surplus is at the end of the year. But yes, I think we would come to an agreement.
Yeah, but it's up to a certain percent though, right? Isn't it?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's up to 2% of our budget.
Okay.
I don't think we'll have that much left over end of year though.
I understood, but theoretically we could be limited to 0.5% or 1%.
Yes.
And the excess of which would be handled like it is now.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Rachel.
Thank you, Margaret. I would absolutely be in favor of you writing that letter for us. I actually did a little research that I'd just like to share with the Board of Education, and maybe if the Board of Finance is listening, it would be good. So yes, I'm definitely for the non-lapsing fund. And I have in front of me the guidelines. Again, I mentioned it earlier this evening, put out by Governor Lamont on June 1st, 2020. They're for the summer school, but keeping in mind that school is starting with just a little over a month and a half away in August, and our current budget for the school year 2020-2021 does not include allocations for the following. So they talk about consistent teams that take staff and then material sharing. They restrict the sharing of educational materials between individuals. Again, this is for the summer, but it would take staff, materials, and they cost money. Again, this is summer, but also in mind that it could be for August. Bus transportation. A bus monitor must be employed by the school district to ride on the bus at all times. It is transporting students to monitor student density and to ensure the use of face masks. Again, this is bus staff and it will cost money. Face coverings, providing face coverings. Schools must provide face coverings to any student or staff member who does not have one. Face coverings could include cloth face coverings or face masks. Again, this is PPE and it will cost money. Talking about cleaning our schools, bathroom cleaning should be sanitized at least twice a day. Products cost money. Time, staff, and resources equal money. Bathrooms, again, do not use hand dryers if they are present. Install touch-free single-use paper towel dispensers, garbage bins, faucets, urinals, and toilets if possible. Again, it takes time, which equals staff, which equals money. These are all vital health and safety rules that are in place for summer school and could be in place by the end of August. We're going to need funds quickly as this situation will evolve at a fast pace, and we cannot wait for an appropriation. I don't know why anyone would be willing to put our children in danger if we need to provide a healthy environment for our children under rules set forth by our governor in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. And actually, you bring up something that's an interesting point. In the Board of Finance meeting, they did talk about, do we need to, if they were to take action on this, would it have to be now, or could they take action later, let's say in August? And I think, Rachel, what you just mentioned is, we're going to need to take action quickly on things that we need to purchase. I think we're also probably going to have a lot of those purchases earlier in the summer. I mean, school, as we just heard, is supposed to open August 27th. So for the Board of Finance to take action, at some point in August when they get back, I think would be too late for many of our purchasing needs, at least for the initial opening of schools. So I would have concern potentially around their delaying a decision on this until later in the summer. Any other comments or questions from board members? Okay, we have a motion on the table. Again, it's that you would authorize the board chair to request that the Board of Finance establish a non-lapsing account. So I will do a roll call of this vote as well. Karina Drake.
Yes.
Liz Fogel.
Yes.
Nora Gatos.
Yes.
Kathleen Holz.
Yes.
Rachel Ruggieri.
Yes.
Sean McAvoy.
Yes.
Ken Schoberg.
Yes.
Jonathan Steckler.
Yes.
I'm also a yes, so that's a 9-0. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item, 6, correspondence to the board, public comment. Jonathan Steckler.
We have a few comments tonight. First is from Carrie Knopp, 1 Stebbins Close. Carrie writes, "Dear BOE members and RPS administrators, is there a parent from Veterans Park Elementary School on the committee? As most of you are aware, Veterans Park has been historically underrepresented in our district. Thanks for your time and look forward to a response." The next is Lori Belagamba, 19 Sprucewood Lane. "I understand and respect the need to be mindful about budgets, especially given our current world. However, thinking about our most youngest vulnerable students, no matter where we are in the fall, these children are going to need stability, familiarity, and consistency. Making cuts to staff is going to make an already unsettling time that much more challenging for our youngest learners. Now more than ever, we need to think socially and emotionally. We owe our students their human connections." And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Correspondence report, Karina.
Sure, we received 33 total emails and I put them in some categories for you. 24 about art, 1 about the steering committee, 1 about English language tutors, 2 about the budget, 1 about e-learning, and 3 about administration communication.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to reports, the superintendent report. Oh, Susie, you're muted. Yeah.
I never wanted that to happen to me. And it did. Sorry about that. Well, someone would have won it, bingo. This week we have the elementary moving up ceremony, so I'm excited for that. A lot of thought and effort on the part of the PTAs and certainly our principals and our teachers, so very much looking forward to those days. Dr. Hanaway and her team of psychologists ran a webinar late last week, I think it was Thursday or Friday. Nothing about this is normal. It was great. You can find it on the Board of Education website where there are YouTube recordings. We are in the midst of hiring 2 elementary principals, and I had the great pleasure today of having focus groups with both of our teachers and our PTA, our parents that decided to sign up and offer me some time with them on Zoom. It was very productive. I felt very connected to the schools and got to get a better understanding of what some of the differences are and also what they specifically are looking for in a principal that may be different from school to school. This week we have interviews Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I'm very much looking forward to all 3 of those days. And I know that from the pool that we have, we're going to find 2 principals, and I'm sure we'll be excited to share them with you, hopefully by the end of June. Lastly, I just wanted to take a moment to follow up on my video and letter last week to families and to students. It's really important for me to know, for me to know that our students and families in Ridgefield know that they are all welcome. We embrace all of them and value all of them. I don't know our teachers well enough, but I do know from everything that I've learned about them over the past few months that they will continue to work hard to ensure that the feeling of welcomed, embraced, and valued isn't just part of a course, a class, or a curriculum scope and sequence. The feeling truly needs to be part of the air that we breathe. And I know that we'll do our part by working to ensure that our schools foster environments that children engaged in sharing and of their perspectives is part of the norm, where the diversity of opinions is encouraged and respected, and where students feel comfortable enough to constructively ask questions and take risks without judgment. I look forward to knowing each student, that each and every student and every faculty member feels connected, welcomed, and valued at the Ridgefield Public Schools. And I can tell you in my short time that people have worked very hard to make sure that I felt that way. So I know that they're going to work hard to make sure that each and every one of our students and their families feel the same. And I'll partner alongside them to do that.
Thank you. Moving on to the chair report. I too feel that I need to make a brief statement regarding current events. It's hard to know the exact right thing to say because there's so many layers to the problem and feelings run deep. And I don't have the lived experience of someone of color. But in an effort to no longer be silent, I find myself peeling back the onion to start with the simple truth that racism is not acceptable in our schools or in our community or anywhere. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We need to take honest, hard looks at systems, institutions, policies, and individuals. The work is difficult and it will be ongoing, but it's necessary. Education is a key strategy, not just the traditional classroom education, but educating ourselves through research, reading, and conversation. Those conversations start with individuals, in our classrooms, at our dinner tables, and with our fellow humans. With courage and vulnerability, and checking our judgment at the door, we must encourage our students, teachers, and families to lean into the discomfort of discussion and action around themes of racism and prejudice, implicit bias, justice, equity, civil rights, and discrimination. And in those discussions, to do more listening than talking, to strip away defensiveness, and to pause for moments of honest self-reflection. I believe these conversations are happening in our classrooms in an age-appropriate way, and that they are necessary work, but we can do better. I know I can do better. Ultimately, that's how we learn to understand individual experiences, value differences, and respect various viewpoints. It's a foundation from which we can work together to bring about positive change. The second part of my report tonight is, this is our last meeting before the end of school, although we have one more before the end of the fiscal year. Once again, I'd like to thank our administrative team, teachers, and staff for their resilience and adaptability this year, specifically these past few months. Typically, board members would attend the school moving up and promotion ceremonies in addition to the high school graduation. It's usually the highlight of our service on the board, but unfortunately, we won't be able to participate this year out of respect for public health guidelines. We wish all of our students a healthy and safe summer. Also, I believe we're looking to schedule a policy committee meeting next week, so keep your eyes out for that on the schedule. Almost the last agenda item, our Budget and Finance Chair report.
So Budget, Finance, and Operations Committee met last Tuesday the 2nd. We had a full inventory of all special accounts for the Board of Education and the RPS system. In 3 buckets, those were athletics and donations, imprest and pass-through, and student activity accounts. We had a couple of questions around all 3 of those, but overall, we had a lot more clarity around the accounting and the use of the accounts overall. With regard to athletics and donations, although they're very clean in the GL accounting, they're all run through one bank account, and we thought it would be cleaner and more clear for the public if that was run through 2 separate accounts, one specifically for athletics, separate from donations. With imprest and pass-through, it's all run through one imprest account. However, the pass-through funds to the town might be cleaner going through its own separate account, or this account to be renamed. But as far as the accounting goes, again, there were no issues there. With student activity, there was a lot of questions around the dormant RPS savings account. We did get clarity that that is very clearly student activity funds that were gathered, not town funds, and nothing that we can now donate back to the general fund of the town. But the accounting of it in the GL, it's clear that the RPS savings account, the dormant account, and the RPS checking account, the active one, are both part of the one RPS student activity fund in the general ledger. Some of the old stuff in the savings account can be pointed back to, I think there's $46,000, which was towards printed transcripts that people paid for in years past. So it was nice to see that we do have clarity around where the funds came from. Now, the business office still has to do some work to tie each of those dollars back to the GL account line itself. But we did overall, as a committee, get clarity as to where the funds came from and that they're in the appropriate place. Takeaways from here was to work up a best practices SOP manual around student activity funds, the breakout of the athletics and donations accounts, and then a further discussion for the full board around how to handle athletics overall going forward. Although this method that we have now goes back, we did find at least until 2004. So coming back to the board at some point to discuss how to handle in the future, but we overall got a lot more clarity around how the accounts are handled and level of comfort. That's all for me.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, that concludes our meeting for tonight. It was a long one. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay. How about I'll give that to Sean, and then Jonathan, I'll take your second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. Good productive meeting. Thank you. Have a good.
Bye, everybody. Stay well.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night, Ken. Have a good night.